you. You may be seated. Honorable members, the Secretary will read the first to fourth orders together.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements on oversight visit to Eastern Cape Province. Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement on oversight visit to Gauteng Province. Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements on oversight visit to KwaZulu-Natal. And consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements on oversight visit to Free State.
Honorable Mafu.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Deputy Speaker, may I address you in
Honorable
terms
Mafu, please take your seat.
of Chapter 1 of the rules of the National Assembly. The rules give the Speaker or the presiding officer the ability to determine where Parliament sits on any particular day. And I would like to suggest that you give some consideration of moving today's sitting to the slow lounge so that we can join the government benches on their afternoon.
Honorable Mafu, please proceed.
Enkosi Sekela Somlomo. Ikomiti yokuhlaliswa kwabantu kundwendwelo lwayo kulamaphondo alandelayo eGauteng, eEastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal naseFree State. Inxalenye yomsebenzi wethu ukundwendwela amaphondo kunye nomasipala anikwe umsebenzi wokuhlaliswa kwabantu. Ingxelo zonke ziqoqiwe zamkelwa yile komiti. Sinazo ke izinto esiziphawulileyo neziphakamiso esizenzileyo kwingxelo nganye. Singabalula ezizilandelayo. Ukunqongophala kweenkonzo ezifana namanzi nokuthuthwa kwelindle ngamanye amazwi bulk infrastructure. Abantu abangena ezindlini ngaphandle kwemvume, illegal occupation. Amacwecwe obunini ahamba kancane ukanti abalulekile kuphuhliso lwezomnotho lwabantu, title deeds. Ukuhamba ngonyawo lonwabu lokwakhiwa kwezindlu zezitshotshovu zenkululeko, military veterans. Ukunqongophala komhlaba wokwakhela abantu nokungasebenzisani kwezigaba zikarhulumente kwezinye indawo. Silicelile isebe ukuba lizijonge ezi ziphakamiso nezi zindululo kwaye lize nemigomo kule komiti yokuzilungisa. Banike ingxelo ekomitini rhoqo ngeenyanga ezintathu. Eli sebe libalulekile ekuphuhlisweni kwabantu boMzantsi Afrika. Kwaye siyazi ukuba akukho ukuphuhliswa ngaphandle kwalo. Siyacela ke ukuba indlu izamkele ezi ngxelo. Ndiyabulela.
I now recognize the Honorable the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. We move that all the reports be adopted by this House.
Honorable members, any request for declarations?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, the DA would like to make a declaration. Thank you.
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. At the outset, I think it's fair to declare that our membership of the committee precedes this report, so this is done in tribute to our colleagues. But the common factors across all these reports is the realization that the process of delivering houses is actually a frustrating one for many South Africans who are waiting for their opportunity, despite some of the best efforts from the right. One of the key factors is that there are instances wherein houses are being delivered without services attached to it, and that creates a frustrating element where people who are beneficiaries of this housing project have to wait for services to be installed before they can begin to occupy those comfortably. Secondly is the issue of contractor appointment. We seriously need to review how the process of appointing contractors for housing developments is conducted. On many of these contracts, whether it's in Gauteng or KZN, there are instances where contractors have been awarded jobs that they clearly have no capacity to deliver on. So halfway through a project, you have a contractor being dismissed because they haven't delivered. That further delays the process. And that is something that our colleagues from the ANC can just take a walk to Royal Street, where the Western Cape Provincial Department is, and learn from best practice, because our common interest here is the delivery of houses to the people. And you will know that, Honorable Squatcher, during your previous tenure with the Department of Transport, this used to happen efficiently. But this is not politicking. Our interest is in ensuring that beneficiaries of houses get them on time, they get quality houses, that contractors who do not perform get punished so that there's accountability. The last issue is what Honorable Mabu touched on, is the issue of military veterans. We seriously need to look at the credibility of those beneficiaries that declare themselves military veterans, although they look as young as I am, some even younger than me. And this is an issue that is recurring across all provinces. And linked to that is the issue of title deeds. It really makes no sense in this day and age where there's developments in technology that houses can be completed and beneficiaries get their title deeds even years after the fact has happened, because title deeds are linked to the land, not the physical structure. So those can be provided while the house is still in construction. Nonetheless, we support these reports. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Member EFF.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Let me state it outrightly that the EFF is concerned about the houses that the ANC government is building to our people. Other houses that are not even suitable for disabled people and the elderly people. Yet they claim to be building the houses and managing the backlog of houses in South Africa, which is not true. Throughout all these visits, it is evident that our people do not have land to build houses, and many are not working to afford to build themselves decent houses. That's why they are depending on the ANC government to build for them decent houses, yet it is not happening. We have raised it in numerous occasions where people, some old people and disabled people have been displaced and left without houses. Even flats that are built in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal do not accommodate the disabled and the elderly people. We have Gogo Majola and Mamsi Tole in Inanda, Durban, where we raised on several occasions to the minister. The people that I've just spoken about still remain homeless. In Umlazi, Mr. Sipho Mguni's house was demolished with a promise of an RDP till today. There is no expenditure that's justification on some of the houses that are built in provinces, and yet those houses are still not finished. Contractors having been paid and then never delivered those houses to the department. But most importantly, we reject it with strongest contempt that our people are illegally occupying land or invading land. These are the allegations that the ANC is bringing every time to the Portfolio Committee when we visit these provinces, that the reason why they do not have land, it's because of land invasion. And we all know it is not true. Our people need a place to stay, and the ANC government is failing to give them land and proper housing. We are leaving them with no choice. People cannot wait any longer. Our people need land, and our people need proper housing. Beneficiaries are changed along the way. You get the department having their own list, but when houses are allocated, it's a totally, completely different beneficiaries. Houses are built without proper land servicing. You build a house, you allocated it to a person, the next thing, there's no water, there's no proper sanitation. Therefore, the EFF will not support this report. Thank you.
Honorable Member.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, The Department of Human Settlement certainly remains a department that is failing the people of South Africa. Today, we consider the report of Department of Oversight visit for 4 provinces. Not a single of them can be classed anywhere near being a good story to tell. The Free State has 143 informal settlements, which only 41 of these receiving department upgrades so far. Military veterans are receiving 100 square meters instead of 50 square meters that are being allocated to everybody else in the provinces. What informed that special entitlement for the Free State province? This must be investigated. In the Eastern Cape province, near Umtata, we have toilets on over corner, but not houses has been built. Has an auditing been done on this issue, and why is there no proper coordination between the provinces and municipalities? Planning remains extremely poor, and intervention by the national government is urgently required for the benefit of the citizens of these provinces. In Gauteng province, we have the terrible condition of hostels. Our remain living in fifth. There is no maintenance or upkeep, and the general state of dwellings lead to condemnation, not habitations. There is also no management at hostel. This must be attended to. The mushrooming of informal settlement in all areas is out of control. The councillors even being involved in illegal establishment of informal settlement. National government must intervene. In KwaZulu-Natal, there is no coordination on informal settlement, hostels and non-management at hostels. Title deed remains a big challenge in KZN, as they are in all provinces. In conclusion, Deputy Speaker, the IFP support this report. Thank you very much.
Honorable Madisha, as you come in. Honorable Van der Merwe, you are not allowed to bring a drink into the house. Please, we have spoken about this before, so you take it back and out of the house when you go back to your seat. Go ahead, Honorable Madisha.
Thank you very much. In respect of the oversight visits of the human settlements to various provinces, COPE makes the following observations. In respect of KZN, COPE notes the misalignment of housing projects between local and district municipalities. This points to poor intergovernmental relations between these 2 organs of state in the local sphere. As a consequence, there are instances of poor planning, delays, and executing projects, and instances of wasteful expenditure and poor workmanship. Another impediment in KZN is that most available land in KZN is predominantly rural and under the control of traditional authorities. This is a problematic due to regards to security of tenure. COPE knows the request by the Portfolio Committee to the Minister that the National Department assists the KZN province with human resources in order to fast-track project implementation, and that the capacity in the local government sphere be improved. In respect of the Eastern Cape, COPE notes that there is a breakdown in the intergovernmental relationship between the provincial government and the 2 metro municipalities, to the point where the relationship is considered to be adversarial. This lack of cooperative governance must be resolved. In respect of the Free State, COPE knows that the oversight visit revealed a plethora of persistent problems, including the pipeline planning, non-compliance with housing code, policy principles, a lack of bulk infrastructure investment, delays in the housing and issuing of title deeds, no consequence management, no punitive actions, against those who do not do their work, lack of visibility by human settlement institutions. It is evident that the delivery of housing is being adversely affected by weak, indifferent, and non-cooperative governments in KZN, in the Eastern Cape, and the Free State, and of course, wherever ANC is. COPE hopes that the Minister and the Department of Human Settlements will take note of the observations from the oversight visits of the
Honorable Member.
Portfolio Committee. We can't
Your time has
support
expired.
that.
Yeah. ANC, Honorable Kabashe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Let me say up front, the ANC supports the report that has been tabled by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. On back infrastructure challenges, the government of the ANC has provided USDG grant on all 8 metros in order for them to deal with this kind of a challenge, to put services on the land and build houses for our people. On top of that, ANC government has set aside, had ring-fenced 2% of the USDG grant, that is subsidy that we use to build houses. Its 2% is set aside to top up on the infrastructure development. That is complementing the MIG that is being given to other municipalities that are not metros. On shoddy work and defects that has been indicated, done by some contractors, some are performing well, some are not performing well. The entity of government that has been put by government of the ANC, which is National Home Builders Regulation Council, NHBRC, is responsible for quality control and assurance, certifying of foundations and slabs, the registration of contractors, and penalize contractors that are not performing, and taking them back to deal with remedial work, the defects and other things. And also projects, all projects are now registered with NHBRC. The contractors are registered by NHBRC. The project is registered for inspection, and all that is done by the government of the ANC. On top of that, we have advised the provinces to put a clause in their contractual agreement between themselves, province or municipality, and contractors, a punitive clause that will control, it's already started, that will prevent contractors to do as they please and just abandon the site and leave. That's the control that we've put. On land issues, that is a challenge on other provinces and other smaller municipalities. The government of the ANC has put an entity that is called HDA, Housing Development Agency, to assist those municipalities and provinces on land acquisition and develop a 5-year plan pipeline for projects that will be on planning, on also to deal with packaging of projects to assist those that lack capacity. And that's how we resolve issues of housing. On allocation of beneficiaries, we have the allocation of beneficiaries is now being centralized by the National Department of Human Settlement, where there's an entity that is dealing with that, appointed by the minister, and also we have a policy, allocation policy, that prioritizes disabled people, senior citizens, child-headed houses, and that has been a practice since the allocation policy was in place. And I don't understand why the EFF get that we don't have such a policy. And on social housing, on management of human settlements, we are in KZN in other provinces. That's why we have Kunupia. That is going to yield at the end of the project 20,000 or even more, 20,000 units.
Order, Chair.
And the priority is about people
Chair,
who are in the informal
Chair,
settlements, who are living in shacks to be relocated to that project. And also in the Eastern Cape.
Honorable Kawashe, please take your seat. What are you raising on, Honorable Member?
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
What's the point of order?
Konobia is the ANC factional backless. We are
Honorable
distributing
Member, what
houses
rule
in the
is that?
Konobia
Honorable
as
Member,
per your
that's
faction.
not point of order. I told you I'll switch off this thing when you do not do properly in the rules. Go ahead, Honorable Member.
In the Eastern Cape, where when we visited, there were toilets and slabs. That project is being used as a relocation project in order for the Department of Human Settlement to relocate people from shacks, from informal settlements, and get decent houses in those that the slabs, there are houses that are being built as we speak. On CRUs, social housing for rentals, those who are working, who are in the middle income, are getting the rental stock, getting houses in the rental stock managed by social housing. And then the CRUs are being developed in all the provinces that we have visited. And people are going to be allocated. That the issue here, Honorable Stole, is for you as a member of parliament to encourage your people to pay rent.
Point of order.
Honorable Member, please take your seat. Yes, what's the order, Mayor?
Asisezwa kahle ANC bangumsindo ngendlela esimanga.
Honorable Members.
Ayicela ithule.
All right.
At 45 Port Elizabeth
Honorable Member.
ama-toilet kuphela azikho izindlu.
Honorable Member, usuyaphambuka manje, ayikho lento. Honorable Members, order please, order. Allow members to hear.
In Free State, yes, it's true that the government of the ANC in Free State constructed bigger houses, but they use the subsidy as it is being required, provided by the national government, and then they top up to extend those houses to be more than 50 square meters or 52 to be 100 square meters, as it has been outlined earlier here. They fundraise from the private sector and they put up their own budget to, as a top-up funding. The title deed, the National Department has asked the AEB to coordinate the national title deed program in order to fast-track the issuing of title deed. The title deed, the program is called Title Deed Restoration, and we are already seeing results. In most provinces, when they build now, they issue, before even they build a structure, on acquiring a land, they issue a title deed for beneficiaries. And I don't understand what the outcry about title deed, because that's the program of the ANC, championed by the Minister of the ANC. Here in the Western Cape, your N2 Gateway program is done by the National Minister, not yourself. You are behind on issues of delivering housing. My time is still on. I'm looking at the watch here. You are failing to deliver houses for our people in the Western Cape. You have failed our people, the DA. You, DA, have failed our people. You are not housing our people. You are housing yourself. You are only concerned about the urban areas where you live. In the suburb, you are not concerned about poor people. But you come here and make noise. We are concerned about people, and we are making their lives much better by delivering millions and millions of housing in South Africa compared to the world. There is no other country that has delivered so much housing other than the South Africa led by the ANC. Thank you, Chairperson.
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker. You are distracting.
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Deputy Speaker, when we look at the observations and recommendations contained in the various reports, certain similarities arise, even though the challenges facing the province might differ. First and foremost, there is a dire need for better planning, collaboration, and coordination amongst all spheres of government in human settlement. This lack of integrated planning often results in the poor coordination of work and gives rise to the funding challenges, which is to the detriment of thousands of people waiting for a place to call home. The Portfolio Committee, for example, observed in its report on Gauteng that there is a minimal planning around the upgrading of informal settlement, no accommodation plans for military veterans, no tangible urban renewal plans, no housing solution for mining towns, and minimal plan in the management of title deeds in the province. The NFP believes that similar observation will hold true for the other provinces visited. Another issue that seems to be pervasive is in provinces, and in particular in dense populated centers of human settlement, and is a prevalence and increase in the backyard dwelling. Whereas the proliferation in the backyard dwelling is a necessary social response to a dire shortage of housing, it does have implications for service delivery. Many backyard dwellings are connected to electricity and water supply lines illegally, and this places a burden on infrastructure which had not been designed to meet the demand of such a large number of people. We therefore support the various recommendations of the Portfolio Committee that backyard dwellings be formalized and taken into consideration when planning human settlement. Finally, NFP agrees with the Portfolio Committee that attention must be paid to norms and standards to ensure that houses and dwellings are not built in an inferior manner and with inferior material. Several of the observations allude to shoddy workmanship in several of the housing projects, and we believe that those contracts who are responsible must be held to account. In conclusion, the LFP support the Portfolio Committee reports on oversight visit tabled here today. I thank you.
Honourable members, the motion is that the reports be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections agreed to. Honourable member?
Deputy Speaker,
Yes.
note the objection of the most progressive organization in this House, the EFF.
The objection of the EFF will be noted. Okay. The Secretary will read the fifth order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on Annual Report 2015-16 of South African Qualifications Authority and Council on Higher Education.
Honorable C.C. September.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We present to the National Assembly the annual report of the 2015 and 16 SAQA report, as well as the Council of Higher Education. Honourable members, you are reminded that SAQA is responsible for coordinating the work of quality councils, and those councils include Umalusi, the Council on Higher Education, and the Quality Council of Trades and Occupation. We present to you the recommendations that the committee has made, and that is that indeed these councils need to ensure that they have clean audits, that their internal control system should be strengthened. We also ask that you accept the recommendation that the NQF Act should be amended to provide for the creation of a register of misrepresented qualifications. And we also think that the public entities should utilize the services of SAQA in verifying the qualifications of applicants before they are appointed. Insofar as the CHE is concerned, that the entity should explore other possible mechanisms to raise additional funding. The employment of people with disability should be prioritized in line with the employment equity, and that the entity should prioritize a digitization of publications to avert the sharp increase in printing costs, and that the entity should tighten its accreditation processes to defend the decisions taken by the Higher Education Quality Committee in protecting students from substandard qualifications. We present this report for your adoption. Thank you.
Honourable members, I assume there are declarations. Go ahead, Honourable member.
Geachte voorsitter, geachte lede, die Suid-Afrikaanse kwalifikasieowerheid speel 'n uiters belangrike rol, onder andere as die voog van die sentrale databasis van kwalifikasies, maar ook as databasis van gekwalifiseerde individue. In hierdie opsig is dit die owerheid se taak om te bevestig of te verifieer of persone wel die kwalifikasies behaal het waarop hulle aanspraak maak. Die owerheid het 'n trotse rekord van 19 opeenvolgende ongekwalifiseerde en sogenaamde skoon audit verslae. Dis daarom dus baie jammer dat hierdie pragtige rekord in die 2015-2016 boekjaar bederf was, omdat 'n ooreenkoms met die navorsing met die Universiteit van Tegnologie van Durban nie betyds deur die uitvoerende komitee onderteken kon word nie. En waarom is dit nie onderteken nie? Omdat daar nie 'n uitvoerende komitee in plek was toe dit goedgekeur moes word nie. En wie se taak is dit om die raad van die Suid-Afrikaanse kwalifikasieowerheid, oftewel SAQA, aan te stel? Dis die taak van die minister van Onderwys en Opleiding, minister Blyden Nzimande. Dis net nog 'n teken dat die agbare minister hom in die eerste plek nie met sy primêre taak besig hou nie. Dis eenvoudig onverskoonbaar dat 'n belangrike instelling waarvoor die minister uiteindelik die politieke verantwoordelikheid moet aanvaar, sy goeie werk en goeie reputasie in gevaar gestel moet word deur hierdie einste minister se laksheid. Dit bring by die Raad op Hoër Onderwys. Dis positief dat die raad geëvalueer is as synde goed funksionerend met robuuste debatte, goeie interaksie met die hoër onderwys omgewing en veral goeie advies aan die minister van Hoër Onderwys en Opleiding. Dit is jammer dat die minister nie altyd hierdie goeie advies waardeer en aanvaar nie. Agbare lede, die Raad op Hoër Onderwys dien as waghond vir standaarde in die hoër onderwysomgewing. Ek glo is daarvan bewus dat die raad bevind het dat sommige van ons universiteite se regskwalifikasies hersiening en verbetering benodig en dat sommige van ons regsfakulteite gevaar staan om hulle akkreditasie om die LLB kwalifikasie aan te bied te verloor. Hier is maar een voorbeeld van die uiters belangrike en verantwoordelike waghondrol van die raad. Kollegas, maar ek glo jy moet ook kennis neem van kommer oor die vermoë van die raad op hoër onderwys om die sake waarvoor hy verantwoordelik is spoedeisend en effektief te kan hanteer. Instellings, veral private onderwysinstellings, kla dat hulle in die reël baie lank moet wag op die terugvoer van hulle aansoeke om akkreditasie, sowel as die terugvoer op audits van die raad. Die raad erken dat sy personeelomset heeltemal te hoog is en dat hy sukkel om vaardige personeel te lok. Daar is 'n groot beweging in Suid-Afrika vanaf openbare onderwysinstellings na private onderwysinstellings en die raad op hoër onderwys se werk om by hierdie instellings gehalte standaarde te stel en af te dwing, raak dus al belangriker. Die probleme, insluitende die finansiële tekorte van die voorafgaande 2 boekjare, is beslis op die agenda van die raad en die portefeulje komitee deel dan ook in sy verslag die kommer oor bogenoemde sake. Die Demokratiese Alliansie beveel dus aan dat die verslag van die portefeulje komitee aanvaar sal word. Ek dank u.
Thank you. EFF, Mbata.
Deputy Speaker, in considering the 2 reports of the 2 institutions, we decided to take a warmer approach on one institution, that is the South African Qualifications Authority. We note that this institution is well managed, well supported, and for years it has been underfunded. There is a continuing overburdening of these institutions as the government continues to be a corrupt state. The government deliberately hire unqualified senior management and senior executives and then later turn back and say this institution must verify their qualification. We are saying it is the duty of every employer to voluntarily verify the qualifications of every employee before hire. There is no need to hire a person and then later discover that the qualifications are illegitimate and thus require all sorts of legal processes. We believe that the Department of Higher Education must give in to the demands that it has extended to this institution and award more subsidy stroke budget to assist the institution to do some of the work. We have also noted that it has cleared and has been able to keep records of all South African certificates, in particular from 1990 and before 1990. And this is an important heritage for all South Africans because no one wants to be told that the certificate of his or her qualification has gone missing for life. In this instance, we will support the work of this institution. On the second institution, which is the Council for Higher Education, we do not support the work of this institution. On 2 occasions, this institution has missed an occasion to advise the minister on the importance of providing free higher education for all. this institution, among other many reports it has produced, it has failed to produce a report on the deepening poverty in higher education institutions, on the deepening levels and gaps of provision between those that were previously white and Africans and those that continues to be historically black. And these gaps is the source of all troubles in the higher education sector. And we feel that they have missed opportunities many a times in terms of how they should have at least turned the corner to advise various ministers on how funding was supposed to be at least assisted to make sure that the previously disadvantaged institutions are given extraordinary support and backing, since majority of them did not have reserves. We also feel that in South Africa there is a reality of what is called the growing poverty, and hence the growing numbers of South Africans who needs higher education but who cannot afford. And therefore the issue of supporting the poor only is not assisting to eradicate this problem. Assisting the poor only is actually a dodgy program because it makes you to scale up the different amounts earned by different households, as if these households do not have extended families they support on top of these amounts. And as a result, it is a lie to tell that different amounts that are stagnant in South African economy can produce a young child straight to university. In this instance, we support the SAQA and we do not support the Council for Higher Education. Thank you.
Honorable Kubisa, please take a seat for a moment. Honorable members, allow me to welcome in the gallery His Excellency General Do Ba Thi, Member of Parliament, member of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Vice President of the National Assembly, head of the delegation. He leads a 13-member delegation of MPs and staff on an official visit of the Republic. Thank you and welcome. Professor Honorable Kubisa, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As the National Freedom Party, we wish to add our voice in congratulating SAQA for its 20 years of implementing the National Qualifications Framework and for its 19th unqualified audit report, but we believe that the institution can achieve a clear audit in future. We're equally supportive in praise for SAQA, achieving 92% of its stated targets across the 6 programs, and commend the management for successfully implementing cost containment measures in line with the government's call for fiscal austerity measures to curtail expenditure. It is refreshing for once again to be able to stand here and extend congratulations for a job well done, and we encourage the management of SAQA to continue with this excellent track record. And as I've said, Deputy Speaker, that this institution can achieve a clean audit in the long run. Overall, the Council for Higher Education also performed well, even though not as well as one would have hoped for. Allowance must, however, be made for severe financial constraints that the entity was operating under and the unprecedented student upheavals in 2016. Both of these factors have had a negative effect on the overall capacity of the Council to execute its mandate. Also support the observations and conclusions regarding the Council for Higher Education contained in the report, and share the concerns that regarding the increase in traveling, legal, printing, and overseas trips. To this end, we endorse the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee that the Council expedite its process of converting to digital publication rather than traditional model of printing hard copies. Such a move will certainly assist the Council to balance the books whilst being able to execute its mandate. Deputy Speaker, the National Freedom Party supports this report. Thank you.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I wish to declare that the IFP joins the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training in congratulating the South African Qualifications Authority for its 20th anniversary of implementing the National Qualifications Framework, and also for its 19th unqualified audit report. I would like to add that it is high time that the authority obtained a clean report. I also compliment the authority for taking the initiative to raise funds for the digitization of pre-1992 qualification project. The IFP also compliments the Qualifications Authority for taking the lead in the continent of Africa as one of the best NQFs, as well as for winning the bid to host the Groningen Declaration Network meeting. Turning now to the Council on the Higher Education, I wish to declare that severe financial constraints that the entity is operating under is a serious cause for concern. I believe that the Council will be well advised to establish an internal legal division, given the exorbitant amount of 3 million rand it had to pay as legal fees in a single case. The Council is urged to resort to raising additional funding given the difficult economic conditions of the country. It is regrettable that owing to unprecedented violent student protests in the higher education sector in 2015-2016, the Council could not achieve some of its targets. The IFP supports the report. I thank you.
Honorable Cope.
Yesterday, State South Africa released a damning report. Poverty is rising. The key driver of poverty is unemployment and employment or employability. That depends on education levels. COPE remains concerned at the dysfunctionality and corruption that besets our cities. For example, the CEO of AgriCita is implicated in a forensic report. Onika report implicates staff members and service providers being paid without delivering a service and false documentation. All these reports and investigations should be made available to Parliament. CEO of MICT, CETA, is under investigation for failing to declare his interest in a company that made millions from the CETA he runs. The acting CEO of Mining Qualifications Authority is under investigation for fake qualifications in corporate or governance and strategic management. There are, of course, CETAs which are which are running better. I can cite, for example, one like ETDP CETA, which is doing well. COPE is very concerned about the consistent government underfunding which has led many universities into dire financial straits. The proportion of government funding to university budgets decreased from 49% in 2000 to 40%, and in some cases, 30% in 2013. The resultant financial shortfall was made up by student fees, which increased by 42% from 2010 to 2014 and clearly contributed to the fees crisis. COPE also appreciated the view of the council that the funding of higher education could not be about funding university students only, and that there was a need for equitable funding across the entire post-school education and training sector. In this regard, COPE is concerned that the portfolio committee appear not to have adequately grappled with the crisis in higher education funding in its deliberations and recommendations in this report.
I've given you seconds. You are absolutely not learning to keep to your time. Your time has expired, sir.
But you didn't tell me. Had you told me, I could have.
Every member is given time.
No,
you're out of order, Honorable Madisha.
You're out of order, sir. You could have told me, I would have.
Where do you come from, Honorable Member?
Next time you should tell me.
No, Honorable Member, take your seat. Next time you must read your records. Honorable Members.
Point of order. Point of order.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Deputy Speaker, I think we must register our dissatisfaction with the patronizing way in which you are treating Honorable Madisha there. You can't say to an honorable member, you are not learning to keep your time. It's wrong.
Honorable Member.
Where do you come from? Why do you address Honorable Madisha like that?
Honorable Member, take your seat. I'll
Deputy
tell you why.
Speaker, I hope you know that it is wrong.
No,
you must respect Honorable Madisha, treat him like all other members that you treat with respect.
Honorable Member.
Why must you treat him like that? We won't be party to that behavior.
Honorable Member, I've heard you. Take your seat. Let me respond to you. Honorable members, I treat everyone in this house with respect. And I believe when I advise you to keep your time, not once, not twice, not thrice, you are deliberately actually acting out of the request of the rules. So I believe I'm justified in asking him those questions because he is doing it serially and it is out of order, in my opinion. And I object to members not obeying the rules and wanting to be drilled in a manner that they expect, which we expect from everyone here. Honorable Member, proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable members, there are rules here. You don't have special treatment in the House. No one has. Proceed, Honorable Member.
The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training undertook to assess the annual reports of the 2015-16 of the South African Qualifications Authority and the Council for Higher Education. SAQA is a product of the thorough thinking by the ANC on what should consist an integrated education and training system as envisioned in the ANC policy documents. Framework for education and training and the reconstruction and development, which emphasize the need for the development and implementation of the National Qualification Framework. The annual report demonstrates that the authority has been able to deliver on its mandate in the 2015-16 financial year with a reputation of good governance, received an unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General. It recognized 23,622 foreign qualifications, received an unqualified audit opinion, recognized 13 new professional bodies, registered about 36 professional designations, and verified 72,543 national qualifications. The report demonstrates that despite challenges confronted, SAQA was able to deliver on its mandate under the year in review through, among other things, good governance. The committee knows that there is a need for the entity to aim for a clean audit in the 2016-17 financial year, and that internal control system should be strengthened to avert irregular expenditure. Again, the committee also
look at the Council of Higher Education, which plays an overarching role of giving advice to the Minister of Higher Education and Training on issues related and responsible for quality assurance. The entity is commended for undertaking to conduct another cycle of institutional audits to improve the quality of higher education. The CHE was able to contribute towards standards development and national review, complete the alignment of the higher education qualification sub-framework 1 year ahead of its schedule. The entity received an unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General, and it was able to respond promptly to all requests from the Minister of Higher Education and Training. The reports further demonstrate that despite conditions of austerity that had affected on its ability to exercise its mandate efficiently, CHE was able to deliver by complying with principles of generally acceptable practices, including compliance with applicable laws. We do recommend that the entity should explore other possible measures to raise additional funding to supplement the declining baseline grant from the department. The employment of people with disabilities should be prioritized in compliance with the Employment Equity Act, and it should tighten its accreditation process to defend decisions taken by Higher Education Quality Committee in protecting students from substandard qualifications. The concerns raised by Honorable van der Westhuizen regarding the LLB is the matter that the Minister and the Council is seized with, and we believe that the matter will be resolved soon. Secondly, the fact that Honorable Mbata says that the CHE had on several occasions advised the Minister on matters containing to higher education has not done that. The CHE has on several occasions advised the Minister, who is always ready to listen. But we should bear in mind that universities has got councils that makes their own decisions. And the ANC supports both reports.
I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip to give us his wishes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We move that both reports be adopted by this House. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, the motion is that the reports be adopted. Are there any objections?
Deputy Speaker, we reject the report on Council on Higher Education.
Okay, we'll note the objections of the AFF. The report is therefore agreed to. Second one? Second one. Is the sixth one? Yeah. The Secretary will read the sixth order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on Annual Report 2015-16 of Culture, Arts, Tourism, Hospitality, and Sports Sector Education and Training Authority.
Honorable September.
Thank you, Chair. If ever you try and mock my surname again, Honourable Member, there will be consequences. Let me just warn you. There will be consequences, I promise you. Honourable Deputy Speaker, may I seek
Point of order.
May I seek your protection?
Point of order.
Honorable Member, yes. Honorable September, take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member.
Angazi ufuna ukuthini. Bengithi uyakhuluma.
Aye, Honorable Member, no. Hlala phansi, ma'am. Hlala phansi. Qhubeka sis. Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The report before us indeed is the report of the Cath Seater. At the time that the report was presented before us, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Of course, the CETA at that point in time was still under administration, and a range of reasons have been given to that. The report that the committee had received, amongst many other things that they have presented to us, the report also pointed out that in some of the programs, the CETA would be able to make sure that 110 training providers be compliant with legislated requirements, that a number of the learners entering programs have been exceeded, that 500 learners entering skills would be entering skills program, that 320 learners were enrolled and will be enrolled in work experience in internships, and that 100 artisans entering training would be entering training programs, 800 sectoral small enterprises directly supported, and that 250 unemployed youth from rural areas will be supported, as well as 50 technical and vocational and education and training staff would be entering this program. The 5 CAT CETA learning programs would be licensed to the Tivet College, and that 6 rural development programs would be supported also. Some of the targets that were not met were around a range of number of the learners that were completing the bursaries, and some of the staff completing training programs, amongst others. We observed that the legislation did not compel government departments and public entities to contribute the one skills levy to the government-related CETAs, and this had a serious financial implication on these CETAs, and accordingly we recommend that this needs to be attended to. We equally also, insofar as the clean audit is concerned, have asked that this needs to be expedited insofar as the new accounting authority have to deal with that, and that the CETA should distribute the development interventions across all the provinces. We also recommend that the department should expedite the process of reconfiguring the new CETA landscape, and that further engagement should be undertaken to resolve the challenge of government departments and public entities not paying the 1% levy skill for training and development. Deputy Speaker, we put this report to the House for adoption. Thank you.
Declarations, Honourable Member. Any declarations? Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Deputy Speaker, the work of the Skills Education Training Authority is informed by the National Skills Development Strategy, which has a clear mandate of ensuring that there's skills training, and secondly, there's development and we create employment. However, CETAs, particularly the CAT CETA, remains problematic. There was an over-expenditure of more than 28.2 million, and 15.8 million was recorded in programs 1 and 2, which speaks onto administration and governance of this particular sector. Yet there's only 60% and 75% of the targets which were met. Now, there is inadequate throughput rate in terms of skills and training programs which are funded by the CETA, and this is obviously of great concern to us. It's very important to note that the whole point of CETAs is to ensure that there's an increase in skills and development and proper training. We must therefore ask ourselves, in a country where there's more than 9 million unemployed people, 6 million who stay at home, and more than 3 million of those individuals are not in education, training, and these are particularly our young people in South Africa. Surely there ought to be more accountability in terms of our CETAs, and this entity in itself must uphold its mandate. Deputy Speaker, our proposal is that the entity should hire and also ensure that they meet their 10% threshold, and also the department must exercise sufficient oversight in terms of these entities, particularly the CETAs respectively, as we'd also questioned the Deputy President previously. Deputy Speaker, the Democratic Alliance supports this report with the necessary recommendations that were submitted therein.
Deputy Speaker, one of the core mandates of the Culture, Arts, Tourism, Hospitality and Sports Sector Education and Training Authority is skills development. That is why it is worrying that a number of key targets were not met. Of serious concern was that only 42 learners out of planned 175 completed bursary programs. Only 134 out of planned 260 completed experience and internship programs. Only 3 out of a planned 50 TVET staff completed training programs. Another issue of concern raised by the CAT-SITA Skills Development Project is mainly in urban areas, while little focus on rural areas. While these are important and crucial observations, the usefulness of the recommendations serve no purpose at 2 levels. Firstly, many of these recommendations have been made before, but more importantly, the planning, funding and purpose of higher education in this country is fundamentally broken. The EFF therefore rejects this report because at the end of the day, the recommendations only seek to address the symptoms of the challenges faced and not the fundamental problems. Thank you.
Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We acknowledge the substantial improvement in the performance of the CAT-SITA under the guidance of the administrator, and whilst it is highly commendable, the National Freedom Party believes that the sooner the CAT-SITA is in a position to be managed accordingly. And we need a dedicated board as envisaged in the legislation. The CAT-SITA has a very important responsibility to plan, coordinate, and oversee the skills development in one of the few sectors in our country where modest economic growth can be expected. Travel and tourism is estimated to contribute 412.2 billion to our GDP in 2017, which accounts for 9.4% of the GDP. Moreover, it is forecast that travel and tourism will support 2.5 million jobs, or 13.2% of the total employment in 2017. South Africa remains an affordable destination of choice for international travelers, offering visitors unsurpassed natural beauty, rich cultural diversity, and a well-established hospitality sector. Providing a highly skilled service industry to support tourism and travel is imperative if this important economic sector is to grow and provide much-needed employment. The National Freedom Party is in agreement with the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee. If implemented, these recommendations will go a long way in normalizing the operations and the functionality of this SITA. The filling of vacancies is critical in critical appointments, and nomination of an accounting authority should be prioritized to ensure sound administrative and financial management of the SITA. Equally important is the PC's recommendation that the Department of Higher Education should exercise sufficient oversight role over its entities, in particular the SITAs, to prevent poor governance and performance. Inasmuch as the SITAs are functioning independently, the constitutional imperatives and principles of transparency and accountability require that the department is ultimately responsible for the way the SITAs operate, function, discharge their duty. This obligation, Deputy Speaker, cannot be delegated, and the department would be well advised to give effect to the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee. Supported. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no declaration anymore, I'll now invite the Chief Whip. And, oh, sorry, Honorable Kekana.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the CAT-SITA received a clean audit. It also reduced irregular expenditure quite tremendously. And for the year 2013 up to 2014, 2015 up to 2016, the target achieved improved from 34% to 80%. Out of the 24 students that were recruited, 13 of those students were absorbed. In other words, permanent jobs were created for them. And finally, and most important, irregular practices, people who were involved in irregular practices were disciplined. And actually, those that were caught out in corruption were dismissed. I therefore propose to the House to adopt this report. Thanks very much.
Honorable Chief Whip.
I also concur with the last speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that this report be adopted by this wonderful House.
Honorable members, the motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? Oh,
Please,
yes.
Deputy Speaker, note the objection of the EFF.
We will do that. Okay. We will do that. The Secretary will read the 7th and 8th orders together.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on second quarter performance report of 2016-17 of Department of Higher Education and Training.
Honorable September again.
And
still more.
And consideration of report
okay.
of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on fourth quarter report of 2015-16 and first quarter report of 2016-17 of Department of Higher Education and Training.
Who's okay, ma'am?
Chair, we present to the House the first quarter, second quarter, and fourth quarter for your adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Declaration, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The consideration of the quarterly reports is one of the tools that ensures that organs of state are accountable to Parliament, and these reports are critical in ensuring that we hold our departments accountable and that we ensure that those who've been tasked with granting and mandating the policies actually execute their jobs. Deputy Speaker, I just want to highlight problematic areas in terms of the report. The first area is that of skills development, which we've articulated, in that the purpose of the program is to promote and monitor national skills development and to develop the skills agency and ensure that there's proper employment and that we generate skills and development to ensure that our students that are in plumbing and in the TVET sector are able to get employment once they've acquired their qualifications. The second point to note is that in terms of
Deputy
TVET...
Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Please
take your seat, Honorable Member.
No,
take
I
your
wanted
seat.
the Honorable Member to take the mic down.
Wait.
So
Okay.
that it doesn't hide her face, but also that it's in her mouth properly. We want to hear because she's making important subject. Take the mic down like this. Yes, thank you.
Honorable Ndlozi, you have a job. There are people who do that job. Don't retrench them in their presence. Go ahead, Honorable.
Deputy Speaker,
Yes,
I'm wondering now whether, it's a requirement to take a doctor's advice when it's given.
Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. I think I will re-highlight the critical points that I was raising in terms of infrastructure, in terms of our TVET colleges. It is common cause that these colleges are tasked with ensuring that there's proper skills and development. And what we've seen, once we've observed in terms of going into oversight, we've seen that instead of having 70% training and 30% theory, it is reversed. And so one of the biggest problems is that students don't have the necessary equipment to ensure that they're able to execute their practicals, which is a fundamental issue that we've identified. And secondly, in terms of governance of our TVET colleges, there's no proper accountability and they're incapable of executing the mandate granted to them. Now, a fundamental problem, Chairperson of the committee, that we continue to ignore is that our universities and TVET colleges are underfunded. There's been a substantial underfunding from 2000, in that there was 49% subsidies in 2000, yet in 2014 those had declined to 40%, which is why we find ourselves in a critical point in which students are very much disgruntled on the ground, yet fees continue to increase and the government has no proper solution in addressing this issue. The uncertainty about the future of CETAs and the reduction in skills has a negative impact on the implementation of skills development. And so we proceed and request that the departments, 1, prioritize education, training and development, and ensures that those who have qualifications receive them on time and that they're able to go in the economy and contribute to the development and growth of South Africa. And the Democratic Alliance adopts and supports this report.
Member,
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker and members of the House, the most recent statistics released by the Stats SA show that 55% of South Africans are poor and live below the poverty line. And 35% of South Africans with just a matric are poor. The report also shows that only 8.4% with a tertiary education are poor. Honorable members and those listening at home, if this does not show the importance of education and the need of it to be free, nothing will. We live in a country defined by racialized economic inequality. Free education, as these statistics clearly indicate, is one of the most straightforward mechanisms government can use to solve this inequality. The quarterly reports of the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education fail to recognize this. These problems in higher education can only be addressed in free, quality, decolonized education is made government policy and is implemented. Because these reports do not speak to the need for free, quality, decolonized education, we then reject it.
Honorable Member, IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The Portfolio Committee was happy to observe that overall performance of the Department of Higher Education showed remarkable improvement in the second quarter in comparison with the first quarter performance. It is worth noting that the department did not incur any irregular expenditure. The IFP is, however, concerned about the delay in the filling of vacancies, especially that of the Deputy Director Generals. Once posts are created and funded, it is critical to fill them to enhance the capacity of the relevant entity to effectively deliver on its mandate. The PC was, however, not impressed with the report on Indlela. I agree with the PC recommendation that a turnaround strategy needs to be implemented to support Indlela to deliver on its mandate. Turning now to the fourth quarter report, I concur with the PC that the department must fast-track the building of other 9 TVET colleges. I also agree with the committee that the Wi-Fi should be installed in all colleges for easy access and connectivity to the internet for our students. The universities are also urged to prioritize the safety and security of these valuable institutions, since the destruction of the property, of the university property, can only disaffect our students. The IFP supports the report. I thank you.
Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We noted as the NFP that the vacancy rate as of 31st August 2016 was 6.8%, and of the 91 positions advertised in the second quarter, 45 were filled. It was also noted that vacancies were created with the appointment of the internal staff. It was also noted that in some TVET colleges, some teaching personnel were not well qualified. There was also high attrition rate in certain programs due to older staff leaving the employ of the department, especially the Institute for National Institute of Learnership. TVET colleges play a significant role in skills development. Hence, it is expected that the infrastructure at these institutions be of a high standard. They must be better resourced. More funding is needed for TVET colleges. The delay in the construction of the 9 other TVET colleges is also a cause for concern. Some students who had qualified for NSFAS received their funding very late, and that was concerning. It was also found that NSFAS did not have an accurate, verifiable data on students who had fully received their funding. This was attributed to some technicalities of the electronic system. The department is, however, commended that at least more than 450,000 students had received NSFAS. This signifies a huge improvement from the previous quarter. The decline in the number of new artisans registered nationally and a new artisan qualified for per annum is a cause for concern, given the huge demand for artisan skills to sustain the economy of our country. The department is called upon to attend to instability in some of the universities. Some universities also offered unregistered modules and courses, and that will jeopardize the academic career of our students. Some TVET colleges need to be progressive enough and provide Wi-Fi to help students to be able to do their assignments with ease. In the second quarter of 2016-2017, the performance of the department showed a bit of improvement, and that was commendable. It's also a cause for concern, Deputy Speaker, that some senior position had not been filled at the release of the reports concerned. The department must also attend to the issue of safety and security at our TVET institutions and universities, as it is reported that some of our female students are raped within the campuses, and this is not, we don't want to see that. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The National Freedom Party supports the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, if we look at the reports, and we have actually listened to some of the colleagues serving in the committee, we actually on the same page as far as the shortcomings of the department are concerned. We all have one goal in common, and that is to ensure that our nation obtains the necessary skills and qualifications that they can, in fact, drive the economy to heights necessary. We will not have investment in our country if we don't have the skills base, and that is why we need to attend to that. Now, Honourable Deputy Speaker, what we see before us are very sound recommendations made through a thorough engagement with the department. We do not let them off the hook. In particular, we want them to understand that to a large extent, the 26 universities are managing and have the capacity to manage the delivery of teaching programs. But our greatest shortcoming as a country is in the arena of skills development through CETAs, and we know what the problem is, the fragmentation of the CETA sector. We really need a realignment, and we are engaging the Minister on that issue. And secondly, very importantly, the TVET sector. If we look at our inverse diagram, it's clear that we cannot have a university sector that have more students than a college sector, because the colleges are in the communities. We also need to ensure that community colleges assist those who have fallen out of education. The community colleges should fill that vacancy. So clearly, it's a task that we're still working on. Everything has not been achieved. The only pity that we have is actually that these reports are in fact historic reports. They were concluded and they were in fact tabled in February. Since then, a lot has changed, but we are not letting our oversight fall behind. We have had the department during the past week again on a quarterly reporting, and we will continue to do so. The ANC supports the report, and we are thankful for the support from the Democratic Alliance, and we are convinced that Honourable Mbata, who serves in that committee, would actually also support the report, but that he was in fact given different instructions. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Chief Whip. Chief Whip.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
Motion is that the reports be adopted. adopted. Are there any objections?
Deputy Speaker, please note the EFF rejected.
Okay. We will note that objection. Agreed to. The Secretary will read the 9th to 10th orders.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on joint oversight visit to Gauteng, and consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on oversight visit to post-school education and training institutions in Gauteng.
Honorable September.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Please, honourable members, support these two reports. Thank you.
Any declarations? Yes, Honorable, go ahead.
Agbare voorsitter, agbare lede, die oorsigbesoeke van die portefeulje komitee in 2016 het plaasgevind te midde van ontwrigtende optrede op sommige van ons universiteitskampusse. As 'n mens byna 'n jaar later terugkyk op die verslag en die omstandighede wat toegeheers het, kan mens baie dankbaar wees dat hierdie akademiese jaar soveel beter uit 'n onderrigoogpunt verloop het as die vorige 2 jare. In die verslag word daarna verwys na planne om die 2016 akademiese jaar te red. Ons moet krediet gee aan alle rolspelers wat uiteindelik daartoe bygedra het dat die jaar wel grootliks gered kon word. Al het dit beteken dat jaareindeksamens in sommige gevalle eers vir jaar kon plaasvind en dat baie verdienstelike studente se grade heelwat later aan hulle toegeken is. Die eerste verslag, die gesamentlike besoek, word daardeur gekenmerk dat daar ten tye van die besoek op die korttermynplanne in die hantering van die ontwrigting van kampusse gekonsentreer is. Daar's verskeie faktore wat tot die onlus gelei het. Een daarvan is die baie laat deursetkoerse van studente. Ons moet daarvan kennis neem dat minder as die helfte van eerstejaars studente wat vir 'n 3-jarige B-graad registreer, die kwalifikasie binne 6 jaar behaal. En dat 1 uit elke 4 studente in residensiële studie hulle studie staak voor die 2de studiejaar. Maar daar's nog 'n groter faktor, boonbehalwe die vernietiging van die drome van duisende talentvolle Suid-Afrikaners wat tot kampusonrus bygedra het. Die kostes van studie het net eenvoudig onbekostigbaar hoog geword. Die langtermyngevolge hiervan gaan baie negatief wees vir ons universiteite. Hierdie huis moet kennis neem van die redes wat daartoe gelei het dat klasgelde oor 'n geruime tyd baie meer as die inflasiekoers verhoog moes word. Dis die onvermydelike gevolg daarvan dat die ANC-regering se befondsing van ons hoër onderwysinstellings eenvoudig nie tred gehou het met die verhoging in die kostes van ons universiteite en colleges nie. Dit het studente en diegene wat hulle finansiëel bystaan toenemend in 'n situasie laat beland waar hoër onderwys beswaarlik bekostig kan word. En dit is veral arm studente wat hierdeur negatief geraak word. Dit is baie jammer dat dit geweld en ontwrigting moes verg om die regering se aandag op hierdie belangrike en groeiende probleem te vestig. Ongelukkig is die verslag stil oor wat nodig is om die grondoorsaak van die probleem op te los en herhaling van die studente onrus te verseker. Ten tye van die besoek was alle hoop gefestig op die kommissie van ondersoek wat deur die regering in die lewe geroep is. Daar is verwag dat hierdie kommissie rakende die befondsing van hoër onderwysinstellings teen Junie 2017 reeds sy verslag aan die minister sou oorhandig. Dit het egter nog nie gebeur nie. Die lang tydsverloop van hierdie ondersoek is 'n bron van groot kommer en dit is belangrik dat u daarvan kennis sal neem dat die huidige situasie by ons openbare universiteite en colleges bloot by wyse van spreke 'n tydelike skietstilstand verteenwoordig. Feit is, ons universiteite en colleges benodig baie meer geld as wat die ANC bereid is om hulle toe te ken. Die Demokratiese Alliansie daarenteen het verskeie besparings in ons alternatiewe begroting gevind om universiteite en colleges beter te befonds en hulle dus in staat te stel om die verhogings in klasgelde tot onder die inflasiekoers te beperk. Die verslag wat handel met die September 2016 besoek van die portefeulje komitee sluit onder andere 'n verwysing in na die probleme wat by ons gemeenskapsonderwysinstellings ervaar word. Die verslag belig die enorme behoefte aan kundige personeel by hierdie instellings. Dis eenvoudig onverstaanbaar dat hierdie regering die nood van ondergekwalifiseerde volwassenes wat dikwels nie voltydse studie kan onderneem nie, so afskeep. Die verslag lig ook uit dat die staatsdiens self nie 'n goeie voorbeeld stel as dit by die betaal van bydraes tot die openbare sektor SETA is nie. Die wydlopende verslag verwys ook na sommige van die baie probleme wat by ons tegniese en beroepsonderwys en opleidingskolleges ervaar word. Dit sluit in dat die nasionale beroepssertifikaat, ook bekend as die NCV, 'n ernstige hersiening van sy kurrikula benodig. Die verslag verwys onder andere na die hoë vakaaturekoers vir personeel by die colleges wat besoek is. Dit sal die uitvoerende gesag baat om met erns kennis te neem van die sake wat in hierdie verslag uitgelig word. En teen daardie agtergrond steun die Demokratiese Alliansie die aanvaarding van die verslag. Ek dank u.
Akhbar Mbata.
Deputy Chairperson, Honorable September should know very well that this House is no longer good in taking instructions. You must remember the vote of no confidence, how instructions weigh haywire. Instructions are no longer good anymore. This visit to Gauteng gave us an ample opportunity to learn and know about many instances and situations that both the education movement, meaning the universities themselves and the TVET, are facing. What also became clear to us was that both the university students and the TVET students are affected by the same problems. What we are seeing here is a system in deep problems. Whether you are on the other side of the corner, the system remains underfunded. What is glaring clear is that the newly found fame of the TVET colleges is going to be a doom in the near future. Why so? Because the system is funded on the basis that everyone who's poor who gets into the system is already funded. But the NSFAS, halfway through the journey, will declare no funds. We also have situations reported by students where students who stay 40 kilometers and over, who are promised transports and catering support wherever they stay, these monies come as late as 7 months when they've already been staying. What gives rise to problems of students doing sex work and many other extra recreational activities of suffering. These are the things that this system is producing, making our young people completely frustrated, making our young people not even remember how they went into the system in the first place. Once upon a time, it was a good thing to go to a university because the system will protect you, it will give you a bed, it will give you lecturers who will come on time, it will give you all sorts of support system. Today, the majority in the system is black, but the system lacks support. And who is in power? It is the black government. We need a black government that loves black kids. We need a black government that loves the black agenda. You cannot continue to have previously black universities suffering with no reason. You are so quick to fund things like SAA. You can't fund free education. Your problems are huge. When it comes to poverty, you have no solutions. Half of our country are living on poverty. Half of our country are unemployed. You can only have that by a good plan on free higher education, in particular to move every family to enjoy the luxury of having a graduate. You have an example here, Commissar Dr. Mbuiseni is the first in the family. Would it be so wonderful that every South African family can have a member of a family graduating, but not under the ANC? Thank you.
Honorable Kubisa.
Deputy Speaker, let me say from the outset that the ramifications of the Fees Must Fall campaign will continue to reverberate through higher education for a long time, as long as the issues that pertain to students are not attended to. Issues of funding, issues of accommodation, issues of tuition, etc. These have to be attended to with the speed it deserves. Student concerns with the cost of and quality of higher and further education are legitimate. And so too are their concerns with student-specific issues, such as safety on campus and availability of affordable and safe accommodation. The National Freedom Party believes that these ongoing concerns, together with the cost and the funding of tertiary education, should be part and parcel of the recommended ongoing dialogue between the department and all affected stakeholders. But we note also as the NFP that the Commission has not up to now delivered its report, because we want to know what is it that is happening in our tertiary education sector. National Freedom Party welcomed the recommendation made by the PC regarding the TVET and CET sectors. There is a perception amongst our young South Africans that studying at university is the only worthwhile form of tertiary education, and TVET-based education is seldom considered as an option of first choice for post-school education. We believe as the National Freedom Party that the recommendations contained in the report will, if implemented by the department, contribute to the strengthening of the image of the TVET training as a viable and even desirable alternative to university studies. Finally, the National Freedom Party is encouraged by the importance and emphasis placed on community education and training. But we say, Deputy Speaker, there is need for a broader definition of this sector as well. We are indeed in agreement that the additional funding should be allocated to the city sector to facilitate its expansion to reach even more of our people who have not had the privilege of formal education. As the dropout rate in our schools continue to increase, the CET sector will play an increasingly important role in our quest for alleviating the national shortage of skills. And any effort to expand the CET sector is also to be applauded and encouraged. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We support the report.
Thank you. Honorable Member, IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. This joint oversight visit, together with the Select Committee on Higher Education to Gauteng, in order to meet with stakeholders in the post-school education and training sector because of the disruptions caused in the 2016 school year, and in order to seek to ameliorate the impact thereof in terms of both new entrants at our places of higher education and the placing of graduates into areas of skills scarcity, was a necessary and welcome dialogue. Unequal patterns of access to higher education remain a challenge, and one that we are not adequately dealing with, as inequality is increasing in all sectors in South Africa. Honorable Deputy Speaker, a concerted effort must be made to maintain the highest standards of higher education, no matter where in the country the student finds themselves. Lack of funding for tuition and residence costs leave many of our best and brightest out in the cold, accepting careers and employment more out of the necessity of placing food on the table for themselves and their families than in rather having the opportunity to participate in higher learning and fulfilling their utmost potential. High costs of tuition remain a contentious subject and one that is not going to fade away. The ANC must make good on its promise of free higher education to the poor. Chairperson, we should never underestimate our students. They are intelligent, they are resourceful, and they know when they are being played for fools. As our universities gear up for the 2017 final examinations, we can expect more protest action as long as government remains silent on the fees must fall issue. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The joint committees undertook the visit to post-school education and training institutions in Gauteng. During the visit, we met with various stakeholders in the sectors to discuss the plans to save the 2016 academic year. The stakeholders who engaged with the committees condemned the violence and destruction of property and collectively called for the resumption of teaching and learning. During the oversight, presentations were also received from QCTO and NSFAS. Although concerns were raised in relation to NSFAS, it was, however, commendable that no eligible students were left out by universities in 2016. Proposals made by stakeholders were considered and raised with the department as well as other relevant committees such as the PC on police. Lasting solutions to the ongoing challenges that confront the PSET sector have been a priority for the committee. There are continuous engagements with the department on progress being made on funding. There are continuous engagements with the department on progress being made on funding solutions of the PSET. The committee recommends that safety and security at universities should be addressed through the security cluster, specifically on the operations of the public order policing at universities. There should be continuous dialogue to rebuild the broken trust between the university management and students. A solution should be sought to prevent recurrence of such incidents. On the second report, honorable members, the NDP has set a target of producing 30,000 artisans per year by 2030. The president has also made a call to the state-owned entities and employers to open their workplaces for artisan training and development. In the slide, as the committee, we visited ESCOM Academy of Learning, the Institute for the Development of Learnership and Employment, Skills and Labor Assessment, which is in Lela, Education, Training and Development Practices, ETDP SETA, Public Services SETA, Southwest Gauteng TVET College, PQ Vundla and Sitlakalane Mulapo Community Learning Centers. The TETA learnership was commended considering its success rate and the high absorption rate of candidates that completed the learnership. Patco Bus Service Company was commended for its good apprenticeship program for diesel mechanics, auto electricians, placement of TVET college and university students, and graduate for work integrated learnership and internship. The ETDP SETA was applauded on the impact it's making in changing the lives of unemployed young people through its youth development learnership with EduTel. The refrigeration mechanic artisan programs funded by Public Services SETA, PSETA, which is the PSETA, was also appreciated since it formed part of the scarce and critical skills list. We appreciate the good work that we have seen through the partnership between National Skills Fund and the ESCOM Academy of Learning, where young people were trained in high-demand occupations like welding and electrical engineering related occupations. We note the challenges that confront the institutions visited. These are within purview of the committee, as we have been in contact with these institutions, requesting them for progress reports on outstanding issues. We therefore recommend for better coordination in the training of artisans particularly but by state-owned companies, including their exit plans for learners. A development of a new generation of artisan trainers is needed, noting that a high number of artisan trainers are aging. There is a need to reach out to rural areas. As the ANC chairperson, we support the adoption of the reports. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Honorable House Chairperson, I move that the report be adopted.
The motion is that the reports be adopted. Are there any objections?
House Chair, we do not support the reports.
There's an objection. Objection of the EFF will be noted. Are there any other objections? I now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it. The objection, as I said, of the EFF will be noted. We now proceed to the 11th order. The Secretary will read the 11th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Tourism on oversight visit to Free State Province.
The Honourable Chairperson of the committee will introduce the report, or a member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. The Portfolio Committee on Tourism undertook the oversight visit to Free State Province from the 27th to the 31st of March 2017. The committee had engaged with a number of stakeholders, including the provincial authorities, the municipal officials, the private sector, and members of the general public. The committee also visited a number of attractions and tourism projects. The general observation made by the committee was that the province is performing below its capabilities based on their natural and heritage endowments. The province is located right at the center of the country, but has failed to develop a strong domestic tourism base. This is based on the lack of coordination among the spheres of government. The committee also observed that the province has developed 5 themed routes called the Big Five. These routes are the cheetah, the eagle, the lion, the flamingo, and the springbok. The recommendation by the committee is that the province should revisit these routes so that they reflect the marketing endeavors of the projects in the province. The committee was satisfied with the implementation method of the Vitis Hook Mountain Lodge. The facility is operational, and the Batlokwa Traditional Council has signed a marketing agreement with the private company called Frontier Park Destination. The province also has a potential to diversify its products, offering through the projects such as the Dinosaurs Interpretive Center project at Golden Gate National Park and the Wesleyan Church Museum. However, we were concerned by the fact that this historic site of the museum, where the ANC was founded in 1912, is still not fully developed. We therefore urge the Minister of Arts and Culture to look closely into this matter. The province is also struggling with regard to sustainable tourism development and other imperatives needed for the destinations. This was evident in poor universal accessibility to tourist attractions and accommodation establishments, lack of signage, poor implementation of quality assurance through the grading schemes, and poor maintenance of the tourism attractions. Among the recommendations that were made to the province are as follows. 1, that the province should develop a provincial tourism master plan to provide blueprint for a coordinated planning and marketing of the province. Secondly, that they should also improve the maintenance of tourism attractions to protect the brand and also to encourage repeat visitors. The third is that the province should champion the prioritization of tourism by local municipalities. Honorable House Chairperson, the ANC recommend that this report be adopted. I thank you.
There's been a request for declarations. The DA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This debate should actually focus on the decline in domestic tourism and the failure of so many municipalities to neither invest nor maintain infrastructure. Now, both these make it impossible to create jobs and cultivate economic opportunities. And therefore, let the truth be told. These oversight visits throughout the country simply indicate the real state of tourism on municipal level, which I'm sorry to say are in many parts of our country in a total state of collapse. Whilst this report before the House focuses on several shortcomings, let me give you the real story. Almost every town fails to provide sufficient water of good quality. In some cases, taps have even run dry because of poor management. Towns have also several electricity blackouts. Camping sites and holiday resorts are deteriorating, driving holiday and tourists away. There are also poorly managed waste and landfill sites, disintegrating road infrastructure and overflowing sewerage, and in many places crime levels are very high. Some municipalities have also not even bothered to provide tourism budgets in their annual integrated development plans. Indeed, this is just not a good story to tell. Mr. Chairman, a real pity, because many of these communities lie in areas with great tourism potential, and therefore it now jeopardizes the opportunity for these communities and towns to generate much needed income from tourism. Moreover, the inaction of so many municipalities are making it impossible for small business expansion, particularly in townships where there's a boundless pool of creative talent waiting to provide visitors with a true South African cultural experience. Domestic tourism in South Africa is under pressure, and the reality is that many South Africans cannot afford to travel in their own country. And this explains the drop in tourism in South Africa, with domestic day trips dropping from 54.4 million to 43.3 million over the last several years. This is more than 10 million decrease of people traveling in our own country. And to make matters worse, there was also an overall decline in revenue due to the decrease in the number of domestic day trips undertaken. And again, Mr. Chair, the implication of this is reduced tourism revenue generation as a decrease in the potential of the tourism sector to create much needed opportunities for many of these rural communities. The solution is straightforward. Municipalities must get their act together, invest in product development that is linked to the local economic development mandate. They must invest in tourism infrastructure that will drive demand and make business sense. And I'm sure that the tourism industry will agree with me that the tourism successes here in the Western Cape should not be limited to one province only. Imagine what we can do for South Africa come 2019. And given the job losses in the mining and also the manufacturing sectors, the reality is simple. We need the tourism industry to keep South Africans working. Thank you.
The EFF.
Thank you, Chair. The EFF rejects the report of the Portfolio Committee on Tourism of the oversight visit. The province of the Free State, under the leadership of one of the main culprits in the capture of state by the Gupta family, has been very weak on implementing programs. The province still have no provincial master plan for tourism, which leads to haphazard and uncoordinated actions to projects. There is no common vision which of all stakeholders should be working towards, and we argue that the lack of common vision is deliberate by the province and H. Magashula. The province-wide lack of planning tactics down to the municipalities who receive no support from the province, and in which, as a result, also leads to uncoordinated programs of work. The province, such as the Free State, with the history and heritage, need to have a visionary people leading their development and agenda. Unfortunately, under the leadership of Ace Magashula, under Ace Magashula, which is the most corrupt person and is the leader in the state capture, only preoccupies to enrich himself, to design his father and the Guptas. The EFF rejects this report with the contempt what it deserves. They should be ashamed of themselves that in the Free State, with its high heritage, that the tourism industry is in a state of collapse. We reject this report.
The IFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Tourism and travel remains just too expensive, especially in the provinces like the Free State, which are competing directly with our coastal provinces and cities. Added to this is the persistent lack of resort and tourism attraction in these areas, with many museums in our small towns operating along the borderlines of dysfunction. Built with taxpayers' money, our municipalities are simply not maintaining them. Tourism is a major contributor to economic growth in South Africa, and we cannot allow this to continue the continued neglect on tourism and heritage sites in the Free State. Provincial and local government receive grants from the National Department of Tourism, but none of these funds are flowing back into the local government tourism sector. The continued failure to recognize communities around tourist attraction areas as stakeholders with legitimate interest and right to be heard and recognized in the decision-making of these attractions is still highly prevalent in the Free State and must be attended to urgently, as the surrounding communities form part of a part of the rich tapestry of the region. Tourism additionally promotes the cultural heritage of South Africa and provides communities with the opportunity to promote their creativity, which must be supported. I feel supports the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Go.
Thank you. Thank you. COPE shares the concerns of the Portfolio Committee and the National Department of Tourism regarding challenges experienced at provincial, local government levels with regard to the promotion of tourism, particularly with regard to intergovernmental relations, alignment, and linkages in the tourism sector. COPE knows that tourism has been identified as a priority economic sector due to its substantial contribution to job creation, surpassing that of the manufacturing and other industries. Constitutionally, the tourism mandate is a concurrent function across all spheres of government, and as such, all three spheres of government have a responsibility to perform the tourism function, and this requires coordination and collaboration. COPE knows that through its oversight work, the committee has identified that the capacity to deliver on the tourism mandate at local government level presents a challenge to growth and development of the tourism sector. Consequently, COPE concurs with the recommendations of the committee that the Minister of Tourism be encouraged to, one, discuss prioritization of tourism at provincial and local level, and that MECs responsible for tourism be encouraged to establish provincial tourism fora to ensure regular interaction with mayors. Two, emphasize the importance of integrating tourism into municipal IDPs. Three, advocate for the establishment of a national tourism development fund. And Last, to urge municipalities to create an environment in their jurisdictions conducive to support the development and promotion of inclusive tourism. Finally, COPE notes that good practice in cooperative governance and in the promotion and the development of tourism can be found where the opposition governs.
The NFP.
Thank you, Chairperson. The NFP welcomes the report of the Portfolio Committee on Tourism. We are encouraged by private sector efforts that have been made to establish and expand tourism in the Free State. And we commend all stakeholders who are working tirelessly to make sure that the province gets a share of the domestic tourism market. However, at the same time, it is evident that the benefits of tourism in the Free State are still not percolating through tourism sector small businesses. Several constraints and barriers preventing small businesses from participating in the tourism sector are highlighted in the report and are addressed in the observation and recommendations which we support. Equally important are the recommendations that the provincial government should draft a tourism master plan that will take into consideration the needs of all the various stakeholders, and that poor planning and coordination at municipal level should be addressed. No matter how enthusiastic and efficient the private sector may be, there can be no doubt that tourism needs certainty and 100% government support if it is to benefit the province and the people. We believe that the recommendations contained in the report will assist in achieving this objective. We also note with consent the observations of the committee that Free State Province lags far behind on national and international requirements for universal accessibility. This is very certain as to the rights of people with disabilities are being shortchanged. We urge the provincial government of the Free State and all stakeholders to ensure that the issue of universal accessibility is given high priority to ensure that people with disabilities can also partake in the joys of tourism and travel. Thank you. We support the report.
The ANC.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. There are two things that we appreciate that happened in the Free State. As a committee, we were being shown the way to go to places where we had to have our oversight taking place. So it means that the provincial government ensured that we never lost our way when we were going to these various places. The second other very good thing that we managed to do was that the officials were very honest. And one very wonderful thing is that public-private partnership works very well in the infrastructure development that is in the Free State versus Hook. It worked very, very well, and we're quite impressed. We have already discussed with the Department of Tourism that they must begin to assist this province so that it begins to do its work better, so that tourism prospers in that province. And also South African tourism has got a major role, which we have already spoken with the CEO and SAT as a whole, that they must assist Free State by marketing it, and also using the venues in the Free State for smaller conferences and smaller meetings, so as to showcase the Free State. We will remember that during the budget speech of the minister, she actually spoke about the tourism fund that is already available, and we encourage the provinces that may have specific programs that they want to undertake to explore that fund. And also South African tourism is now engaging on the 5 in 5, that in 5 years, there must at least be 1 million domestically and 4 million tourists internationally. So with that 5 in 5, there is a possibility of improving domestic tourism, not only in the Free State, in the whole country, because domestic tourism is not prospering. And also, both the department and South African Tourism have been given a budget that is specifically for domestic tourism. With that, we hope domestic tourism is going to improve. Universal accessibility is not only in the Free State, is in all the provinces, including the Western Cape. We would really like that the report be adopted. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
I now recognize the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
I move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the 12th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Tourism on Q3 performance for 2016-17 financial year.
The Honorable Chairperson of the committee will introduce the report.
Thank you, Chairperson. The committee considered the third quarter report of the National Department of Tourism in March. In the third quarter, the department had 71 predetermined objectives. It had managed to achieve 45, which was 62%, and a total of 20 targets were not achieved, which is 38.1%. The committee was concerned about a number of issues, including delays in the provision of signage at the Mandela capture site, learner dropout on the Blue Flag Beach program. The department did not conduct a customer satisfaction service, poor participation of tourism sector in the oceans economy, especially previously disadvantaged communities. There's a decline in domestic holiday trips. The short-lived campaign website is not user-friendly as bookings could not be made online. Amongst other recommendations, the committee recommended that the department should engage the Department of Home Affairs to find a permanent solution to the visa problems, particularly congestions in the international arrivals terminal at OR Tambo International Airport. Should further engage the Department of Transport in resolving signage for Mandela capture site in KwaZulu-Natal, N3. Should divide mechanisms to reduce dropout on the programs to ensure value for money and impact of its programs. South African Tourism should finalize the alignment in the methods of collecting tourism statistics with Stats South Africa and report to the committee on the finalized method. The committee is awaiting the report from the South African Tourism. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. There's a request for declaration. The DA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is with great concern that we note the decline in both domestic tourism figures as well as the revenue spent created as a result of those declines. I've already alluded to the figures, and we've seen already a decline of more than 10 million day trips in terms of our domestic tourism landscape. Yes, we've seen some slight increases in the international arrivals, and largely that is as a result of great efforts by South African tourism and also the provincial tourism authorities using airports and other mechanisms to leverage for more direct flights. And we are in the Western Cape, we've already seen huge benefits as a result of these direct flights. Since June last year, we've generated more than 500,000 two-way direct seats coming into Cape Town, which created 3 billion rand additional revenue. Now, those are the type of projects that we need to focus on that can drive demand and that will make business sense. We need to leverage our tourism assets, for example, our ports, our airports, our rail, and our roads to our advantage, because South Africa has a lot of those infrastructure lying dormant in many cases. A lack of infrastructure-led economic development has now caused some of those assets to not create the necessary revenue required to bring in tourism. So we need to focus on all of those assets in our provinces if we are to push for more tourism and deal with that limited geographic spread obstacle. Because let's face it, many of the issues that we face as a challenge within our domestic tourism space is as a result of affordability and also because of a lack of investment in many of our other provinces. We know that in Cape Town and Johannesburg and Durban, we are doing well in terms of our tourism, but not in those other provinces. And it's in those provinces that we really need to drive much more demand. So therefore, affordability, Mr. Chairman, in my view, must be addressed once again by using national parks, a budget resort concept. All of those things that we've discussed in committee needs now to come to fruition. We've got the solutions. We have implemented many of these solutions in the Western Cape. Let's use them as a best practice to see how we can also be successful throughout the country. But ultimately, Mr. Chairman, we need to also focus on the revivement of stagnant tourism products. We need to implement effective destination marketing strategies, but more so, we also need to get those municipalities to focus on product development linked to local economic development, because that is where the solution lies. We need to build tourism businesses from the ground and not only focus on marketing strategies coming from the top, but let's focus on what happens in those communities, because that is where the tourism potential lies in South Africa. Let's break down those barriers and let's get many more tourismpreneurs entering the tourism market. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Are there any further declarations? The IFP? Yes.
Thank you. Honourable Chairperson, third quarter departmental performance leaves a great deal to be desired, particularly when one looks at certain matters from quarter 2 and quarter 3 that were not correctly and still stand over. Lackluster performance during quarter 3 by South African tourism, with only 61.2% of targets being achieved, only adds to the backlog of targets that are not being met. Chairperson, third quarter tourist numbers were exceeded, which in itself is a very good sign, but we don't want to find ourselves in a situation of winning short-term only to lose long-term because of poorly developed tourism sectors. Tourism is a sector that should be one of the key drivers of long-term economic growth and employment in this country. Government must ensure that the industry is capitalized, is capacitated, and keeps motivating forward. Brand positivity is essential. South Africa tourism has an extremely important role to play in this regard, marketing South Africa as the muted, quote-unquote, top-of-mind destination. For international tourists seeking a uniquely African experience and welcome, South Africa should be the first choice, or number one. International business events are also shy of target. This must be improved as a great deal of knock-on tourism is generated from such events. Geographical spread of tourism clearly indicates the provinces that are struggling, and these must receive additional support from national tourism. Blue flag status and our beaches is vital to the country being able to draw international tourists seeking the proudly South African beach experience. Tourism must ensure that it works closely with environmental affairs and DAF in ensuring that our beach and marine environments remain in pristine condition and that our marine wildlife enjoys the most stringent protection for all visitors to South Africa to enjoy. The IFP supports it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The NFP.
Chairperson, the travel and tourism sector in South Africa is an important potential driver of economic growth, According to a recent report by the World Trade and Tourism Council, the total contribution of travel and tourism to the gross domestic product of South Africa was 402 billion in 2016, which translates to 9.3% of the GDP. The report goes further and predicts that this contribution is expected to grow by 2.5% to 412.2 billion, or 9.4% of the GDP in 2017. In addition, the total contribution of travel and tourism to employment in the country was 1.5 million jobs in 2016. This is 9.8% of the total employment. The forecast is that it will rise by 6.7% in 2017, which translates to 1.6 million jobs, or 10.2% of the total employment. Taking into consideration the importance of this sector for our national economy, it is worrying to note that there is a marked decrease in domestic tourism. This decrease, however, is not as a result of any omission by the Department of Tourism and its entities. Rather, it is a direct result of the slow but relentless economic implosion we are going through in South Africa. The NFP would like to impress upon the department the need to address the decline, and we believe that the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee, for example, such as developing a comprehensive customer survey program, would assist in that matter. In conclusion, the NFP support the Portfolio Committee reports tabled here today. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Are there any further declarations? None?
Yes,
Wait. Yes, Honourable Member. My
Chairperson.
apologies.
Chairperson, both the National Department of Tourism and South African Tourism have reorganized themselves so that they are able to work better and smarter. So with the new reorganization, we're looking forward to the improvement on their work. It was reported by South African Tourism in the previous week that the Department of Home Affairs is already dealing with the issue of overcrowding in OR Tambo. It is much reduced. In fact, they even mentioned that the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Home Affairs actually said, I do tourism because we all do tourism. For the South African tourism, it is important also when they report, that they report particularly in 4 quarters that deal with the PFMA. At the moment, they report on year, that is in June and December, for the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And also they report on the PFMA. So there's a bit of muddle up. But the Editor General has already had a serious discussion with South African Tourism that must toe the line in line with the PFMA, and this will actually be seen as 1819. Otherwise, if they fail to do that, they will get a qualified audit. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
I move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The Secretary will read the 13th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Tourism on Local Government Tourism Conference.
Honourable members, there are too many of you standing around in the passages. Will you take up your allocated seats, please?
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. The Portfolio Committee on Tourism attended the 2017 Local Government Tourism Conference held in Emperor's Palace in Gauteng from the 3rd to the 4th of April 2017. The theme of the conference was tourism planning is everybody's business. This theme was in line with the integrated planning emphasis espoused by various tourism policy frameworks, including the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the National Development Plan. Amongst the objectives of the conference was to reflect on the state of tourism at local government level, including integrated planning, deliberate and various policies, legislation and strategies at local government and their impact on tourism planning, and for local government to share working models and leverage on other opportunities at local government. Amongst other critical issues, the committee observed that tourism is not perceived as a priority at local government level. Local councils still sacrifice tourism in favor of other competitive services delivery imperatives. Secondly, in other local jurisdictions, there is a lack of political will by the elected officials responsible for tourism, unavailability of local tourism organizations, and also a lack of personnel that are dealing specifically with local government, with tourism at a local government level. Some municipalities struggle with aligning tourism within the integrated development. This means there is poor special planning for tourism, and some prime tourist land is lost for other land uses. Some municipalities have established best systems and models for funding and developing tourism. Some of these models could be replicated in other municipalities through networking. Some tourist officials and councillors do not have capacity to fulfill the tourism mandate. Among other things, the committee recommends to the Minister of Tourism that, one, through the MINMEC engagement, she discussed prioritization of tourism at a provincial and local level and encourages all the MECs responsible for tourism to establish tourism forums where they interact regularly with mayors and tourism officials. Emphasis is also placed on the integrated tourism into municipal plans, especially the integrated development plans of the local municipalities. Emphasis also be on the understanding of emerging tourism trends and for municipalities to strive for compliance with sustainable tourism principles. Honorable House Chairperson, the ANC recommends that this report be adopted. I thank you.
There's been a request for declarations. The DA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start to acknowledge the support that the former Minister of Tourism, Derek Hanekom, gave to this local government tourism toolkit. Such a pity that he was axed in a midnight shuffle, because he really understood the real value of tourism, specifically in the role that municipalities plays. Real missed opportunity, but nonetheless. Mr. Chairman, much has been said about transformation in tourism. But from where we are sitting, we did not hear much about how the department intends to boost the demand for tourism. In other words, how government intends to increase the supply of tourists so that entrepreneurs actually have a market for their goods and services. So therefore, transformation in tourism becomes a very important topic of discussion, specifically at local government level, because it is at that level where we need to break down those barriers for many more small businesses to enter the tourism space. And in many cases, the inability of municipalities to focus on infrastructure and also economic development makes it very difficult for those destinations to become successful destinations of choice for small business development. And once again, a real lost opportunity, because tourism creates jobs and it creates a conducive environment for economic development to take place. Something that is desperately needed in South Africa if we consider the high unemployment figure of almost 9 million South Africans. Another area of focus is business conferencing. Here in the Western Cape, we have already secured 33 international conferences coming to the Western Cape, and as a result, these conferences will generate 450 million rand in revenue to our province. Again, an environment conducive for business development and growth. But, Mr. Chairman, More should also be done to hold cross-cutting ministries responsible for their actions. A few years ago, we saw the introduction of the visa regulations having a disastrous impact on our international tourism, but more so on South Africans' brand as a destination of choice for travel and trade. Now, these type of decisions by Cabinet should be carefully scrutinized. What will the impact be on tourism before we implement such disastrous regulations? So my question is, what is Cabinet doing? Are they not seeing the real value of tourism? Because tourism is the only sector in South Africa still creating jobs under very difficult circumstances. So therefore, Cabinet needs to play a much more important role in protecting the value of tourism in our country and not simply seeing it as a luxury or a nice to have. We need tourism to keep South Africans working. And so therefore, Mr. Chairman, we do support this report because we in the DA believe that local municipalities plays a crucial role in tourism development, because the many places that we visited as part of our oversight clearly indicates that where the ANC is governing, there's a complete lack of economic development within the tourism space. And where the DA governs, you can see the difference. Local economic development linked to tourism.
The EFF.
Thank you so much, House Chair. We have long held a view that the developmental potential of local government remains to be realized. The tourism sector is responsible for employing over 600,000 people in the country and could contribute much more to economic development only if our priorities were placed properly. At the local government level, most of our municipalities have not integrated tourism, planning and growth potential into their spatial development frameworks and integrated development plans. The recent local government conference provided no solution to unlock the tourism potential in local government. It provided no solution to the stagnation and capacity building of local government to think and to imagine a niche for tourism development. It did not come up with implementation plans in which to integrate and streamline the work of local government into the three spheres of government. There will be no realization of this potential in tourism for as long as there's no collaboration between the three spheres of government. As we have repeatedly argued here in Parliament, there is also very little attention in paying particular attention to heritage and cultural tourism by almost all local governments, including those that are under the DA government. Unlocking these problems and unleashing potential in tourism will take the growth of the sector to a higher level and improve the interests of our citizens in exploring the beauty of our country. But this to happen, Honorable House Chair, it needs visionary leadership, bold leadership that will take and implement decisions, but not pontify and lament about what is to be done. That is unfortunate that under the current leadership of the ANC, which lacks vision, which is obsessed about self-enrichment and looting, the tourism center would not reach its highest level. It would not explore its potential because we've got presiding over the state a self-seeking elite of get rich now. An elite that says it is our time to eat because we did not go to exile and to prison to starve after liberation. We need a visionary leadership that do Quinty, and please advise Upapaka Tutuzani that this time is over. Our country is yearning for a visionary leadership in the likes of Honorable Dr. Andros. Thank you so much.
Yes, Honorable Member, why are you rising?
All right, I'm rising on point on rule number 82.
Yes.
Chairperson, the members of this House must be referred to as honorable members or honorable president. There is no way you can refer
Order,
a
honorable
person
members.
with the name of his or her child. because we cannot bring our children here. It is unparliamentary, it's out of order.
Okay, I'll check the state of the intervention of the honourable member, and if need be, I will make a ruling in that regard. I did not pick it up. The IFP?
As chairperson, at the utmost, I must state that conferences in this nature, of this nature, raising challenges and issues that are being experienced between provincial and local government in regard to tourism are very welcome. In order for tourism to deliver on its mandate to our tourists and to the people of South Africa, it is imperative that intergovernmental relations function in a healthy manner. This involves the successful coordination, collaboration, and alignment of policy if it is to be successful. The conference not only provided a platform for stakeholder dialogue, but also afforded us the opportunity to conduct our oversight on integrated tourism planning at local government levels. Aptly themed, quote, tourism planning is everybody's business, close quote. The conference afforded the opportunity for all parties to reflect on the state of tourism in South Africa and the progress made thereon since the last tourism conference. Sustainable tourism within a local government context is paramount to the continued success of tourism in our country. Opportunities abound for local communities in the tourism sector, and there is great potential to provide additional jobs and unlock economic growth. Chairperson, tourism is an essential sector to unlock local economic development. This should be given greater impetus at the local government level. It remains catalyst for local growth and development, and it will assist this country greatly in alleviating the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and equality. The IFP supports this report. Thank you.
The NFP?
Chairperson, thank you very much. Emerging from the report is that our country is rich in diverse aspects of tourism, and tourism is really a driver when it comes to job creation. We need to recognize what projects we have and how to improve them in order for them to be marketable, and we must ensure that we have markets for those who have got these products. We have enough legislation and policies in this area. Now it is time to implement the legislation we have. We need to rise to the challenge and improve our infrastructure, improve our roads, improve our transport, improve our parks, improve our electricity. Most municipalities have not put emphasis on domestic, cultural, traditional, and ecotourism. At a local level, some municipalities do not have desks nor departments dedicated to tourism. There is a dire need to train local government officials to spearhead tourism. Training and mentorships and accreditation for those individual and local organizations involved in tourism is imperative. A need for partnership of local government and traditional leadership and traditional communities is imperative. Local communities have tourist sites, game resorts, and also parks, and these must be they must be assisted to ensure they get resources. And those of our local people who are entrepreneurs and have hotels, B&Bs, and lodges must be assisted with the resources and accreditation. There is also a need to unlock township economy, and issues of safety and security are of paramount importance. Chairperson, the NFP supports the report.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Are there any further declarations? The ANC?
Thank you, Chairperson. Tourism has got a concurrent function, national, provincial, and local. And tourism actually happened at the local sphere of government. Tourism also needs an intergovernmental collaboration and relations, because tourism depends on other departments. Where a road is needed, the Department of Transport will have to assist so that the attraction is easily accessible. So it works with other departments. If other departments are not coming to the fore, there is always a problem. For instance, with the issue of the Mandela capture site. It became obvious that there is poor communication and poor coordination that we observed in this particular oversight or conference. And also, when we're in Ozoran just about a week ago, it was mentioned by a tour guide that the tourists were saying, where are the people in this area? What do they eat? Where do they live? Because they are tired of being in hotels. So it is important for all of us to showcase local government, whether it be rural, township, or wherever the people are and what the people eat, like township tourism, rural tourism, because people are tired of hotels. And this particular conference was to share experiences and to gain experiences of what was happening at local government. So that has been achieved. With the issue of visa, as has been mentioned by the DA spokesperson, that the cabinet has got a role to play. We had an IMC which looked into the issue of visa regulations. Hence, we are where we are today because of that endeavor. Thank you, Chairperson. I would propose that the report be adopted.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
I move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? There is an objection.
Note the objection of the Economic Freedom Fighters.
The objection will be noted. Honourable members, we now come to motions without notice. Does any member of the ANC wish to give a motion without notice?
The African National Congress moves without notice that the House notes with sadness the passing of an multi-talented actor, Dumi Masilela, following an attempted hijacking ordeal on Wednesday, 2nd August 2017 in Tembisa. Understands that he was in a car with a friend when he was shot with a single bullet. Recalls that Masilela, who played a role of Sfiso Ngema on the popular ETV soap Rhythm City, recently married former Muvango actress Simpiwe Ngema. Recalls that before pursuing acting, Masilela was a professional soccer player who played for SuperSport United in Highlands Park, but his career came to a halt following a car accident. Remembers him as a really gentleman who always had respect for those around him. Believes that his sudden passing is a tragic tale of a talented actor cut down in the prime of his life, and conveys its deepest condolences to the Masilela family, friends, and Rhythm City colleagues. I so move.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The Democratic Alliance.
I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that on 11 June 2017, Yusuf Logat, a prominent Nelson Mandela-based sports administrator and social and political activist, passed away aged 79. Further notes that he was honored for his involvement in national and provincial football and cricket and hailed as the Herald Citizen of the Year in 2012 for his community outreach efforts, which included running 54 soup kitchens through the Al-Fida Foundation in Nelson Mandela Bay. Also notes that 2 weeks prior to his passing, he received the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro's Living Legend Award. Recalls that included in his outreach work, Yusuf served as the project manager of the micro-project program, which assists community organizations with various projects on a technical and social level, and also served as a vice chairperson of the Malabar Old Age Home. acknowledges that Yusuf served tirelessly as an administrator for 30 years of a number of provincial and national sporting bodies. Also acknowledges that amongst his many acknowledgements, he was honored by the National Sports Council in 1999, received the Service Award from the International Cricket Council in 2009, was the EP Soccer Board Administrator of the Year in 1987, and the Region Cricket Administrator of the Year in 1969. Acknowledges that Yusuf played a role in the liberation struggle, was one of the activists interrogated at the famous Sanlam building, and played a major role in the unification of cricket in the early 1990s and helped found the EP Football Union. Further acknowledges that the people of Nelson Mandela Bay, the Eastern Cape, South Africa, the NGO sector, and the sports fraternity have lost a dedicated servant of the people and sport, a selfless patriot, and a philanthropist. Conveys its condolences to his wife of 58 years, Ruqayya, his sons, Imtiaz and Muhammad Shafi, his daughter, Fatima, his 8 grandchildren, and his 3 great-grandchildren. I so move.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The EFF.
House Chair, let me start by quoting one of the revolutionary leader of the Haitian leader, Francois Dominic, who once said—
Order, honorable members.
Who once said, I quote, "I took up arms for the freedom of my color. It is our own, we will defend it or perish." Close quote. The significance of the Haitian Revolution and its success to the current generation of the economic freedom fighters cannot be undermined or be easily forgotten. House Chair, I rise on behalf of the EFF that this House note that on the 21st of August, 226 years ago, the slaves of Haiti began their historic rebellion against the slaves of the imperial masters. We draw inspiration from the success achieved in the revolution, yet also draw wisdom from the mistakes made by our fellow brothers and sisters. We also acknowledge that the first black-led government emerged from the womb of the Haitian Revolution. We therefore call on this parliament to remember and honor the Haitian Revolution and the many black men and women who sacrificed their life for the collective liberation of the people. They fulfilled their generation mission. It is now upon us to fulfill ours, the economic emancipation of the people of Africa and the world in the lifetime. So I move. Thank you, Chair.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections.
There
agreed.
is.
Is there?
ANC object.
There's an objection and the motion is thus not agreed to. Order, honorable members. The ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The African National Congress moves without notice that the House notes that the 9th of August annually recognizes the heroic struggles of the South African women of all races, religion, class, and status who resolved to march to Pretoria to challenge and fight against the subjugation and exploitation of women in 1956. Further notes that the current and future generation of women are and will also march forward to ensure the realization of the vision of the gallant women of 1956 who sought a country where they had equal opportunities as their male counterparts. Recognizes that the women continue to face major challenges, including patriarchy, sexism, violence, and many forms of discrimination, which permeates all sectors of South African society. Further recognizes the heightened increase in the brutal killing of women and their daily experience of physical abuse. Affirms the freedom of women and their right to engage in campaigns aimed at the prevention of intimate femicide and rape, and calls on all South Africans to mark not just this day, but every day, by their continual commitment to the efforts which seek to ensure that women are not exposed to any
Honourable
form
member,
of
your
harassment
time is now expired.
and discrimination. I thank you.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. There's an objection, the motion is not agreed to. The IFP.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo.
I hereby move without notice that the House, one, congratulates that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was awarded the Supreme Innovative Leadership Award during the 7th Annual KwaZulu-Natal Young Achievers Awards hosted by Umviti Rural Youth Development Foundation of South Africa on Saturday, 5 August 2017. Note that he received the inaugural Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi Supreme Innovative Leadership Award for spearheading youth development initiatives in KwaZulu-Natal. Further note that these awards aim to reward young South Africans who are shaping their country and changing the course of history by their hard work and contributions in their various fields. Acknowledges the Umviti Rural Youth Development Foundation of South Africa not only for honoring these exceptional young achievers, but for creating an ongoing platform for talented and patriotic young people to get involved in the development of their communities. Encourages other young people to push on in their respected spaces that they occupy and work together in making certain that the future of this country is indeed bright. And finally, urges the government to continuously assist the young in achieving their greatest potential in order to achieve the collective goal of a better nation for all. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The NFP.
House Chairperson, on behalf of the NFP, I move without notice that this House takes note that acclaimed South African opera singer, Miss Pretty Yende, has added to her international fame with yet another prestigious award. Miss Yende, who was born in Piet Retief in the Mpumalanga province, will be honored with the prestigious Newcomer of the Year award by Echo Classic in Germany for her recently released debut album. Also note that Echo Class is one of the most renowned and sought-after international classical music awards in the world, and Miss Yende will be presented with her trophy at a glittering event in Hamburg, Germany on the 29th of October this year. And further notes that Echo Classic Award comes 2 months after Miss Yende was honored with a 2017 International Opera Award for the best recording of an opera album. And finally notes that Miss Yende's achievement is even more noteworthy since South Africa is celebrating the important role and achievement of our women during this month of August. Wherefore, we call upon this honorable House to congratulate Miss Yende on her recent international achievements and to commend Miss Yende for being such a shining example of excellence and integrity. And finally, to encourage all young aspiring artists in South Africa to work at realizing their dreams as Miss Yende has done. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. I move on behalf of the ANC without notice that the House notes with sadness the passing of music icon Ray Phiri Nelspruit Mediclinic on the 12th of July 2017 at the age of 70 after suffering from lung cancer. To remember that Phiri, a jazz fusion and Bakanga musician, was a founding member of the music band Cannibals in the 1970s. Recalls that the group was later named Stimela and had created gold and platinum selling albums like Fashion Pie and Ecstasy, Look, Listen and Decide 92 and others. Fourthly, understand that Phiri was honored with the Order of Kamanga in Silver for his sterling contribution to the South African music industry and the successful use of art as an instrument of social transformation. Remember that Phiri is a true icon of the soil who sowed the seeds for a vibrant South African music industry. Acknowledge that he was immensely gifted composer, vocalist, and a guitarist, and a legend of our time. Believe that his ultimate departure had left a gap that can never be filled. And lastly, conveys its condolences to the Phiri family and the music industry at large. I so move, Honorable House Chair. Thank you.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The UDM. Then you should have objected to it. The UDM.
I move without notice on behalf of the UDM.
Order, honorable members.
That the House notes that on Wednesday, the 13th of August, the IAAF World Athletics drew to a close, with Team South Africa receiving a total of 6 medals, consisting of 3 gold, 1 silver, 2 bronze, thus placing South Africa number 3 on the medals table. Further notes the outstanding gold medalists, Caster Semenya for 800 meters, Luvo Manyonga for his long jump, and Wade van Necker for his 200 meters. Recalls that August is a women's month, and therefore the achievements of Caster Semenya are a further inspiration to all women, in particular in South Africa and the world over. Acknowledges that as a collective result, these athletes have positioned South Africa as a formidable force on the world stage of athletics. Congratulates these athletes and wishes them well. All the best for their future competitions. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. The Freedom Front Plus, the DA.
I am hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that a member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature for the Democratic Alliance, Mr. Kingsol Chabalala, was shot and seriously wounded outside his residence in Vanderbilt Park on the evening of Thursday, 10 August 2017. Also notes that 9,000 rand in cash that Mr. Chabalala had in his possession at the time was left lying scattered around him after the shooting, indicating that the motive for the attack was not robbery. It acknowledges that Mr. Chaba recently uncovered and exposed the corrupt practices of the mayor of Mfuleni, Councillor Simon Maholi Mofokeng. Further acknowledges that the allegations against the mayor include spending more than 1.7 million rand on Kentucky Fried Chicken and Nando's since taking office. Denounces in the strongest possible terms any instance of corruption and wasteful expenditure, condemns politically motivated violence and attacks on any public representative or member of the public, and conveys our condolences to Mr. Chabalala and wishes him a speedy recovery. I so move.
If there are no objections, I now put the motion.
We object.
The motion is not agreed to. The EFF.
House Chair, I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to move without notice for the House to note with great concern the warning issued by the United Nations that there are early signs of genocide in Central African Republic. Further note that the situation in CAR continues to worsen, with 600,000 people currently displaced, 40% more of them than the previous year. Acts of violence like those that are being carried out in CAR at the moment are all too common on this continent due to post-colonial, visionless, corrupt, and disastrous leadership. Recognize that while the conflict is often presented in the media as a religious and ethnic conflict, at the root cause of the conflict is a fight for resources influenced by multinational companies, especially criminal organizations and syndicates like Glencore and corrupt politicians. We call on this House to condemn the ongoing violence in CAR and to ensure that not only the role played by South African government should improve in peacekeeping role, and ensure that elements such as Kulubuse Zuma with mining ambitions and interests are condemned, because it's elements such as those who pillage the resources and inspire conflicts in countries in Africa, and they ought to be condemned. I so move.
If there are no objections, I now put the motion.
House Chair, we vehemently object.
There's an objection and the motion is not agreed to. The ANC.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I move on behalf of the ANC a motion on the nuclear scientist Senamile Masango, that the ANC moves without notice that the House notes that Ms. Senamile Masango became the first African woman to conduct the first African-led experiment at the CERN lab in Switzerland from 30th July. Secondly, acknowledges that the 30-year-old Masango was part of a group of student researchers and they are professor from UWC, University of Western Cape, studying the isotope selenium-70 to better understand how its nuclear shape relates to its energy levels. Thirdly, further acknowledge that they use some of the most powerful scientific equipment to examine subatomic matter and reflect on what happens when stars explode. Fourthly, recognizes that through the culmination of 5-year project, the team are paving way for a bright future for nuclear physics on the continent. Fifthly, believe that Senamile Masango's excellence achievement will serve as beacon for all other young South African women to follow in her footsteps and achieve their goals and dreams. And lastly, congratulates Senamile on her achievement and wishes her much success in her future endeavors. I so move, Honorable House Chair.
If there are no objections, I now put the motion. No objections, agreed to. Cope. The ACDP. The ANC.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. The ANC moves without notice that the House knows that Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta won the presidential election with 54% of the votes of the hotly contested general elections on the 8th August 2017. Further notes that this is his second presidential election victory. Acknowledges that about 19.6 million Kenyans flocked to more than 40,000 polling stations across the East African country to cast their votes. Further acknowledges that these elections were regarded as being free and fair by the international observer missions who were stationed in Kenya during the general elections, such as the African Union, the Commonwealth Observer Group, the East African Community, and the European Union. Understands that the opposition parties have resolved to challenge the outcomes of the elections by seeking redress through peaceful and lawful channels. Congratulates the people of Kenya for conducting peaceful elections and extends its best wishes to President Kenyatta and the people of Kenya for their economic prosperity and stability in Kenya. I so move.
If there are no objections, I now put the motion.
We object.
There's an objection and the motion is not agreed to. The AIC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The African Independent Congress moves without notice that this House notes that the alleged murderers of the prolific music star and actor who was on the prime of his career have been apprehended. Further notes that Masilela was a criminal leader in his own right and sought to leverage the lives of the youth in the Eguhuren area in particular and South Africa in general. That his passing away has left an indelible void in the South African music and acting fraternity. That justice must be done to allow the family of the deceased to find closure, and that South Africans should play their role as active citizens to combat the scourge of crime in the country and report the known perpetrators to the police. I so move.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objections, agreed to. Agang. The ANC.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The ANC notes with great concern the terrorist attack responsible for the death of at least 18 people at a popular Turkish restaurant in the capital of Burkina Faso late on Sunday, the 13th instant. Further notes that the attack was executed by approximately 3 assailants who arrived at the restaurant on motorcycles, proceeded to shoot randomly at the dinners on Sunday evening at the said restaurant. Thirdly, acknowledge that 8 people were wounded in that attack, as well as 2 of the attackers killed in that same attack. Therefore, further recalls that this is the second such attack on a restaurant popular with foreigners in the last 2 years, and that attack has brought back painful memories of the January 2016 attack at another cafe that left 30 people dead. Recognizes that the 2016 attack was executed by foreign attackers. Sixthly, believe that the attacks are part of a growing threat of terrorism on a global scale, and most concerning that the terror threat in Burkina Faso is increasingly homegrown. Further believes that violence does not solve problems, but dialogue and peaceful resolutions of problems are required to build a world with greater security, peace, and better equilibrium amongst all nations of the world. And lastly, conveys its condolences to the government of the peoples of Burkina Faso and the families who lost their loved ones. I so move. Thank you.
If there are no objections, I put the motion. No objection, agreed to. The APC, the PAC, Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes the steady progress being made in the city of Johannesburg since Mayor Herman Mashaba took charge of the city a year ago. Acknowledges that the city's sanitation budget has more than doubled from 17 million to 40 million in the last year. Also acknowledges that 89 intersections in the city have been recabled, leading to an 18% reduction in traffic light faults and a 55% reduction in traffic light downtown. Further acknowledges that 200 new buses have been added to Metrobus, an increase of 50%. Also acknowledges that the operating hours of 6 clinics have been extended, including clinics in Princess Park, Freedom Park, Randburg, and Zandspruit. Further acknowledges that 1.9 billion rand has been budgeted to upgrade 51 informal settlements over the next 3 years, and congratulates the City Council and Mayor Mashaba on building a truly world-class city that all South Africans can be proud of. I so move.
If there are no objections, I now put the motion.
Object.
There's an objection. The motion is not agreed to. Order, honorable members. Order. The ANC.
Thank you, Honorable
Order, honorable
Chair.
members.
The African National Congress moves without notice that the House notes with sadness the news of the passing of Tsekeleke Tolo, an incomparable entertainer and a larger-than-life personality, on Tuesday, 1st August 2017. Further notes that Tsekeleke formed part of the luminaries of the Kwaito generation, who burst into the limelight with his hit song, Feti Boom Boom. Recalls that the song was a celebration and acceptance of his large-sized body against societally imposed and promoted norms and standards of slim body stereotypes. Further recalls that the song's catchy lyrics also send a strong and much-needed message to young people to embrace themselves in all their diversity. Believes that he will be remembered more as a dancer with his unmatched moves, and conveys his heartfelt condolences to the family, the Kalawa Jasmine family, and the music industry at large. I thank you.
Thank you. I now put the motion. Are there any objectives? No objections agreed to. That concludes motions without notice. We now go to member statements. Does any member of the...
Honorable House Chairperson, on a point of order. Honorable Chair, I rise in terms of Rule 92, 1321 and 1325.
Yes.
There are 2 ministers in the House and 3 deputy ministers. My problem is that please keep quiet. Honorable Chair, this matter has been raised in this House time and time again. This section of the order paper becomes a mockery and a tick box exercise, and we're therefore unable to hold the executive to account. The matter has been raised with the presiding officers to no avail. I want to put it again formally to you that please raise this matter. It's only Minister Nkwintu who makes an exception actually to be here. Most often of the time, he's the one that's here. The rest, they're just not here. And at some point, the presiding officers need to be on the side of the members of this House and ensure that this matter is actually dealt with once and for all. It cannot be that every time we come here to raise member statements and speak to empty chairs. Surely at some point it needs to raise alarm. in the office of the presiding officers that members are unable to fulfill their duties if this situation prevails. Those
Thank
that are
you.
howling are the ones
Thank
who
you
are
very
actually
much.
happy about
Your
this
point
emptiness.
has been made.
Wabazovakasha la.
Thank you very much. Your point has been made, and I think even yesterday the same matter was raised, and we are going to make sure that the leader of government business attend to it. We will do that. Thank you very much. Any member of the ANC to make a statement?
Angbonge Sihlalo. The African National Congress welcomes the commitment by Sibanye Gold in setting aside 1.1 billion rands for settlements cost of silicosis claims. Thousands of mine workers have been exposed to substances containing silica, resulting in a diminishing capacity to breathe due to silicosis, a fatal lung disease. The settlement is a historic victory for human rights and communities that for decades had to carry the painful cost of super exploitation. This will make a difference in the lives of the victims because they have been struggling for so long. The amount set aside by Sibanye is mainly for mine workers who contracted lung disease at work, where there is impairment of lung function. The class action lawsuit, mostly relating to a fatal lung disease silicosis, was filed on behalf of miners in 2012. The ANC calls upon the company to engage with unions and find an amicable solution to prevent the retrenchment, following the company's claims of loss of billions as a result of these claims. Thank you.
Thank you. GA?
Madam Chair, the memorandum to which I referred yesterday concerning the bailout of South African Airways exposes the true horror of what is going on at our national airline. We think it is in the public interest to share the information. Paragraph 3.5 reads, SAA now has 6.785 billion in government guaranteed debt, which must be paid on the 30th of September 2017. An amount of 1.761 billion is due to Citibank, which has stated its unwillingness to extend their lending facility. Furthermore, SAA is not in a financial position to repay Citibank nor any other of the lenders whose debt falls due on the 30th of September 2017. Failing to honor these debts of 6.785 billion, an additional amount of 7.8 billion in guaranteed debt due for repayment between 2019 and 2022 would also become payable immediately due to the cross-default clauses. Reading from 3.6, SAA's cash reserves are also inadequate to meet the payment obligations of its suppliers. The airline has, however, managed, as at the 9th of August 2017, to negotiate repayment terms with some of its suppliers,
Thank
allowing
you. Your
it to
time has
defer
expired.
payments of
Honorable
approximately
Liz.
750 million.
Thank you. EFF?
On the 23rd June 2017, we asked the Minister of Health why after 6 years later, since the Chilijini Hospital psychiatric ward burnt down, why has his department failed to rebuild it? But we also asked the minister if the psychiatric patients are being admitted to the medical surgical ward and if they don't have a dedicated special ward. More than a month later, the minister responded and said that Chilijini Hospital have been scaled down to provide only emergency admission and 72-hour assessment of involuntary mental health care users. And they make use of male and female medical ward. What a shame. What the minister does not say is that both male and female medical wards were already crowded before they moved to those psychiatric patients. What the minister does not say is that The dedicated cubicles are not sufficient, especially when some patients are staying long. What the minister says is that patients are only being assessed and stay for less than 72 hours. But patients in Tiligini continue to live in a dirty, filthy, and dump site-like ward.
Thank
The
you.
psychiatric patients in Tiligini Hospital has
Yeah.
been deserted, and the
Honorable
ANC
Mente,
government
your
does
time
not
has
care.
expired.
This is why today we have empty benches
Honorable-
of you, the cruel ANC.
Thank you. ANC?
Thanks, House Chair. Chairperson, the African National Congress is humbled by the trust and the confidence which the people of our country have shown during the by-elections. Once again, the ANC emerged victorious in the by-elections held in 4 provinces yesterday, 23rd August 2017. A total of 5 municipal wards were contested in the Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, and the Western Cape. The ANC won Ward 5 in Bergrivier, Western Cape from DA Nogal. We also retained the highly contested Ward 124 in the city of Johannesburg and Ward 7 in Muchwa, Eastern Cape. With over 80% votes, the people of South Africa continue to demonstrate their overwhelming confidence in the movement. Indeed, our strategy to reclaim political power in the Western Cape is slowly but surely yielding positive results. We thank our volunteers, members, supporters who continued to work tirelessly and ensured this decisive victory for the ANC and the people of South Africa. Siyakuba.
IFP?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The Department of Basic Education is one of the most important departments and receives a greater share of our national budget. But it is shocking that in KZN, some schools, especially in the Mkanyagute district, have not yet received funding from the norms and standards. Some principals run their schools via the services of loan sharks, and even those schools who have received some norms and standards funding only received 50% or less. Ubuhle Bemvelo Primary School is an example, Gilonki, Kagwin, and many other primary schools in that district. Chairperson, there is in excess of 800 qualified teachers in KZN that are unemployed, and yet classes remain overcrowded in schools. Infrastructure is very poor in this district. Construction of schools from 2012 until today has not yet been completed, Chairperson. Schools are still using pit toilets, Chair, which are now overflowing with excrement, and I was shocked in one school, Chair, that there is one school that is using JoJo tanks as a septic tank for that particular school because they are improvising. The awarding of tenders, Chair, for some nutrition in programs remains a challenge, and learners in Umkanyagute might not receive a meal when there is sufficient budget to do so. Umkanyagute district is in crisis, and the whole of KZN, and requires an urgent
Thank you very
intervention
much. Your
from
time
the
has
National
expired.
Department. Thank you.
Thank you. NFP?
Order, Chair. Sacela usikhuze lele ya Castle Corner is very disturbing, Chair. Asizwa lutho. That Castle Corner there.
NFP?
Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson. I rise on rule number 84. That Honorable Hlengiwe, there is no Castle Corner in such a house. She may raise whatever she's raising, but not in the way that she's raising.
Honorable members. Honorable members, please, let us respect one another. Honorable members, I am talking. Please, can we respect one another in this house? And let's refrain from calling each other names. I understand, yes, but let's refrain. Thank you very much. ANC, oh, NFP.
Point of order, Slalo.
Oh, NFP.
Point of order.
Oh, okay, ma.
Ngiyabonga. No, indaba yonakalela. Lana umahambe hlala uminister.
ma.
Usewele nayo lo mkhuba manje sevubela lapha ya ngaphesheya.
Honorable Kaula siyabonga hlala phansi indaba izwakele. Sizwile mama. Ubaba uNcwabe ngiyaxolisa. Chubeka.
Basalwa bahlonishwa basakwebhana kodwa ke ngiqhubeke. The latest report on poverty released by Statistics South Africa on Tuesday has shattered the illusion of a better life for all. Out of a population of 55 million people in South Africa, 30.4 million live in poverty. This is 3 million more than in 2011. The statistics shows that women are more likely to suffer from the ravages of poverty than men. But it is children and the aged who are the hardest hit. Most distressing of all, however, is that 1 in 7 people in South Africa suffer from extreme food poverty and will likely not have anything to eat today. The blame for the increase in poverty in South Africa must be laid squarely at the feet of government. The report points out pertinently that the key driver of poverty is unemployment. And judging by our unemployment rate of 36.4%, it is safe to say that government has failed dismally to facilitate the creation of sustainable job opportunities. Our slow but restless economic implosion is due to government's failure to implement the NDP, combined with its inability to exercise fiscal discipline. Corruption in government is rife. State capture has rocked the foundations of our economy, and state-owned enterprises remain a never-ending drain on the fiscal purse. Thank you very much.
ANC.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The ANC congratulates the South African Police Service for a job well done following a drug bust in Soweto, Gauteng last month. A house in Dobsonville used as a clandestine laboratory linked to drugs supplied to the Western Cape was busted, and a discovery of manufacturing equipment, tablet press, and chemicals were found. The operation will go a long way in the national fight against manufacturing and use of drugs, which have a dire impact amongst our people, especially the youth who are the future of our country. Whilst we congratulate all those involved in this drug bust, we equally call for the speedy prosecution and harsh sentences for those who were involved in the perpetuation of this heinous crime. The ANC calls on all the people of South Africa to join in the fight against drugs. We wish members of the SAP strength as they continue with the good work of protecting the people of South Africa from crime. I thank you.
Thank you. APC. ANC.
ANC.
My apologies, Mr. Godi.
We are ready, Chairperson.
My apologies, APC is now on the podium.
Thank you, House Chair. Those of us who fought for freedom have come to accept that democracy requires perpetual vigilance, mobilization to defend and advance it. Our mortal enemy is ignorance. We must wage a relentless war against it. We must continuously raise the awareness, consciousness of the masses. German poet, playwright, and theater director Bertolt Brecht captures it well. I quote him: "The West illiterate is the political illiterate. He hears nothing, sees nothing, takes no part in political life. He doesn't seem to know that the cost of living, the price of beans, of flour, of rent, of medicines, all depend on political decisions. He even prides himself on his political ignorance, sticks out his chest and says he hates politics. He doesn't know, the imbecile, that from his political non-participation comes the prostitute, the abandoned child, the robber, and worst of all, corrupt officials, the lackeys of exploitative multinational corporations. Close quote. Thank you.
Ra leboga. ANC.
Chairperson.
Can we allow Mam Tapo to continue?
Thank you, Chair. The ANC is committed to increasing its fight against crime by accelerating the integration of the criminal justice system, including access to justice. It thus welcomes the Department of Justice building of new magistrates courts and high courts across the country to give South Africa's citizens better access to justice services. The building of a new court in Plettenberg Bay bears testimony to this effect. The residents of Plettenberg Bay in the Western Cape only have a few months to wait before they will be able to be served by a new magistrates court, thus doing away with the 64-kilometer journey from Plettenberg Bay to Nice-Night to access justice services. The specific area identified for the new court to be built was based on its caseload, which is one of the most heaviest on its district court rolls. It currently has 45,000 cases, with Gauteng following with 36,000 cases. Plettenberg Bay had a periodic court which only dealt with minor crimes. Now it is going to have a fully fledged court that will enable members of the public to report serious crimes. Over 30,000 people are expected to be served by the new court. In total, South Africa has 763 magistrates courts and 13 high courts. Of these, 45 new courts were built in the past 20 years, mostly in previously under-serviced areas. This is an initiative by the ANC.
DA.
Thank you, Chair. Yesterday, the Democratic Alliance Students Organization received a resounding mandate to provisionally govern the Students' Representative Council at the University of Pretoria. DASO won all 10 seats that were being contested, reaffirming the growing sentiment amongst young South Africans and students who trust DASO to put them first as their student representatives. DASO would like to thank all University of Pretoria students that have entrusted us with their support. We commit to doing justice to the faith shown in us. We're excited to bring good governance to the institution, with DASO provisionally holding 10 out of the 12 seats on the Student Council due to this election. Student organization have until this coming Friday at 9 to lodge objections, although we are confident that the election was free and fair, and we are readying our SRC members to serve all the students of the University of Pretoria, particularly the most poor and vulnerable. This result reflects the growing support and trust that the Democratic Alliance has amongst young South Africans who recognize that the DA is the only credible alternative for delivering skills, jobs, and good governance to South Africa. Our DASO structures are working tirelessly to ensure that in addition to representing students successfully on student councils, we are going to be working with our government in Tshwane, like our other governments, to give more support to our students and to convince our students to deliver a DA-led government in 2019 to fix the broken country that the ANC has given us and the underfunded and broken higher education and training sector that has occurred under this ANC government of today. Thank you.
Thank you. EFF.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Lapha eThekwini under umasipala olidwa yiTheku kunomkhuba owenziwa yi-ANC kwi-Department of Human Settlement under imanager uBeryl Khanyile who's the head. Kuno ANC liaison officer indoda ebizwa ngomhlabunzima Gazo together with an ANC councillor uSthembisa Boxer Zulu. They are victimizing people of Brooks Farm by forcing people to demolish their formal houses to build RDP house. We engage the HOD of KZN in Human Settlement Department. Othi ngimbize ngegama naye. Mrs. Apple Green. She never responded to any correspondence sent to her via emails and SMS. A ward councillor and the ANC CLO, Mnumzane Ugazo, are colluding with a contractor who is interested in pocketing the profit out of this project. Basabisa abantu, but if bengadilize izindlu zabo, abantu abakhe ngeimali zabo because bathatha amaloni abantu base Brooks Farm But uma ningadilizi, i-project iyahamba ngoNovember, kushiwa manga. Some of the houses have been demolished up to 3 months. Kunogogo wase 1699, umam Kwanyana, osehlala emnyango for 3 months, engazi ukuthi uzolalaphi nezingane zakhe because of corruption ye-ANC ward councillor uSthembiso. So we therefore as the EFF, uSthembiso Zulu yes Mam Khawula. As the EFF, we are proposing that i-Human Settlement
Sibonge,
Department.
mama. Isikhathi sakho siphelile.
Akaphela 2 minutes Sihlalo.
Asina 2 minutes kuma statement sine 1 minute 30 seconds.
City Department of Human Settlement ayingadlala ama games. Ayivikele laba bantu because we are going to sort that councillor out. Thank you.
Just a reminder, it's 1 minute 30 seconds. Okay. ANC?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Learning aids were recently delivered at Thembalabantu School for learners with special needs and physical disabilities in Gugulethu. These learning aids provides learners with the communication aids, learning aids as well as sporting equipment to ensure that the children can be properly nurtured to become worthy citizens of the country. The handing over of learning aids comes after the assessment of the needs and challenges. The school welcomed the donation of high-tech learning and communication aids, as it believes it will go a long way in providing a conducive learning environment for learners. In addition, teachers would no longer have to struggle in preparing the learners to acquire the skills they need. Learning and teaching will be much easier for learners and educators. Some of these learners cannot hear or speak at Thembalabantu in Gugulethu. The ANC is of the view that it is through education.
Dankie, Agbarele. Ongelukkig is de tyd is om. Dankie.
Thank you.
AIC?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. As African Independent Congress, we are very much concerned about what is happening at Zwelake Senior School in Tabangol, in Alfredsburg, in the Eastern Cape. Zwelake Senior School is a no-fee school as declared by the Department of Basic Education. The principal and the SGP in that school are charging fees from the parents of learners attending the school. An amount of 600 rand is being charged per learner per parent. The parents who do not have money are not given reports of their children. The withholding of results or school reports due to the failure of parents to pay cannot be correct, and it is against the law and regulation. As a result of this practice, it is alleged that many learners who could not come back to school because their parents did not have money to pay. We cannot allow this because education is supposed to be free from grade 12 to 12. This will eventually lead to crime and increased unemployment in future. The department should attend to this with immediate effect. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC?
And Abulela Slano, commitment by the ANC to strengthen agricultural production and agro industries and promotion of food security is one of its priorities. It therefore welcomes the partnership between Masisi Zane Fund and the Provincial Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform, which both have invested heavily in opening up the capital-intensive commercial farming industry to small-scale black farmers in Matatiele, near the Lesotho border. The fund has invested 80 million in farms in the area, benefiting over 3,400 people from poor households. As a result, 498 people have been employed, 50 farms extending over 3,500 hectares have been supported. The department has also committed 3.7 million for the 2017-2018 financial year. On top of this, the Masisizane Fund and the department assist farmers to find viable markets so that the maize is sold to big companies. A dozen of Matatiele farmers also received administrative training to help them manage the business aspects of their farms. ANC believes that these types of partnership, agriculture-related issues can be quickly addressed. I thank you.
Thank you. GA?
Thank you, Chairperson. Following on the matter raised by my colleague, the Honourable Elf Lees, paragraph 3.6 reads, "The situation, however, is deteriorating and untenable as SAA is not generating sufficient cash to pay its suppliers on time. Coupled with SAA's lenders' unwillingness to further extend funding to the airline, even with government guarantees, a situation has now arisen for the shareholder to take urgent measures in resolving the airline's funding challenges. In this regard, the financially distressed situation at SAA has resulted in the need for an urgent recapitalization of the airline to address both government-guaranteed debt obligations of SAA as well as its working capital requirements. A recapitalization of 10 billion rand is proposed for the 2017-18 financial year." Paragraph 5.4 reads, "Failure by SAA to settle the 6.785 billion rand debt maturing on the 30th of September 2017 or to renegotiate repayment dates will constitute an event of default for the airline's other government guaranteed debt of 7.8 billion rand maturing between December 2019 and April 2022. Such an event would require government to settle
Thank
this
you very much.
additional
The time
7.8 billion
is
rand
now
immediately,
gone.
which is over and above
Thank
the
you, Honourable Menir. Thank you.
6.785 billion rand.
Thank you. ANC?
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC commends the partnership between the Department of Small Business Development, South African Breweries, and the Agricultural Research Council intention to help 5,000 maize farming cooperatives of women to join the South African brewery supply chain by 2020. The Ekangala Primary Cooperative, which is 100% women-owned agricultural business, is one of the first of 11 cooperatives to join the Women in Maize program in 2016. The program's 120 female farmers harvested 1,800 hectares of maize in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and Northwest last year, which totals 9% of SAB's needs. As more farmers are signed up, SAB hopes to increase the number of women farmers in their supply chain. Over the next 5 years, the multi-million rand investment by SAB will draw in 5,000 women farmers to become preferred suppliers to the brewer. The ANC believes that the stronger rural economies will also create jobs and strengthen local economies, which will help government to meet its goal in 1 million agricultural jobs created by 2030. This initiative should be emulated by other provinces and more private sector businesses should come on board. I thank you.
Thank you. That concludes this member statements. Do we have ministerial responses? Mam Kaso?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We understand the desperation of the Democratic Alliance around the SAA matter, but the Deputy President yesterday responded to the document that they received illegally. And we will not take any more time to respond back to their comments today. And that you allow government to work on the issue of the SOCs and will report at the right time. May I appreciate the honorable members who indicated the government's plan to continuously fight crime and the efforts that have been put, be it on the various crimes that have been committed, but to further say that it is everybody's business to come forward because we want a safe South Africa. Let us support victims, let us come together and ensure that our crime fighting efforts become successful through having people coming forward and we assist them to really lodge their complaints. May I also further respond to the ANC members to say the member who was congratulating the African National Congress for winning all the by-elections that were mentioned, to say indeed people of South Africa have hope in the ANC, in the policies that it has, because the ANC accepts where it has got challenges, and we are working very hard to ensure that we continue to change the lives of the people. And in response to
Thank you very much. Let me remind our respondents, it's 2 minutes to respond. And my apologies for saying Minister Kasa. Thank you. Minister Nkwinti.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, given that it's 2 minutes, let me just say that it is very unfortunate that the Democratic Alliance got hold of a document unlawfully. Now the Democratic Alliance is boasting about it as if it's a morally correct thing. It's not. It reflects the desperation of the Democratic Alliance. That you get hold of a document which we only discussed yesterday. And when we discussed it, Honorable Chair, there is no decision of cabinet to take a cent from Telkom. Telkom contributes no less than 500 million rands to the fiscus of the country every year. So we're not going to touch that. Secondly, the Deputy Minister of Finance did make this point in the committee to say, we will not let SAA collapse as government. That decision is taken. So that's not going to happen. But lastly, Honorable Chair, in this house here, the ANC is la ifana nensika yendlu eme entungo. Insika yendlu entungo ayipolishwa. Ixoxwa imikhunyu yabantwana. Nabantu ababambelela kuyo omama xa bebonda imbiza ibenhle ibengezele niyenza loo nto i-ANC nicimba nina niyayibulala i-African National Congress niyenza ntle ngoba niyayipolisha ngokuyithuka ngoba i-ANC yintsika yomkhunyu bonke baqingela kuyo iza komelela kudala izibonakalisi anikafumani nina
Ngiyaxolisa baba, isikhathi siphelile. Siyaxolisa, isikhathi siphelile. Deputy Minister Oliphant.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Let me thank the ANC and Honorable Nyambi for the statement she has raised on the plight of former mine workers. I can just confirm that in the past 3 years, the Department of Mineral Resources, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Health have been working tirelessly, crisscrossing around the country in almost all the provinces to deal with the plight of those who were neglected and worked in the mines before. We have been working and getting cooperation and support from the Chamber of Mines, the Gold Group, the Global Funds for AIDS, TB, and malaria to have achieved what we have achieved that I will talk to right now, and also having good collaboration from the mining trade unions, National Union of Mine Workers, AMCU, UASA Solidarity, with the participation of NUMSA as well. So the total of 4 billion rand in the class action that Honorable Nyambi referred to includes 1.1 billion from Sibanye, 1.3 billion from Chamber of Mines, 400 million from Goldfields, and 917 million from Harmony. This will complement the 3 billion allocated by government to the Department of Health for the purposes of compensation to former mine workers. Since 2012, we have built 2 clinics, special clinics called one-stop centers, one in Umtata, another one in Carltonville, and a lot of progress have been made in terms of attending to the health and well-being of ex-mine workers. 2 of them are still under construction, one in Burgersford and another one in Kuruman that will be opened this year, September, October. And we can proudly say that we have also covered Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique, and Botswana, with 1 each of these service centers. Lesotho one is operational in Mafeteng. So the payment that has been made by the Department of Health, which is 1.5 billion, is about 6 million. Thank you very much.
Date is on. Thank you. That concludes the ministerial responses. Do you have another? Oh, Deputy Minister Masuku.
Siyabonga, thank you very much, Slal. Ngifuna ukuresponda ku Honorable Ngqang okhuluma ngendaba ye-poverty. We are concerned indeed ngale ndaba yokukhuphuka kwe-poverty ngo-3% on average. Kodwa into efuna singa thina njengo-government sifaka ama-programs asibonanga manje ukuthi le trend ikhona. Sifaka ama-programs to counter that. Uma ulalela ama-statement amaningi la khuluma nge-Eastern Cape neLimpopo la sifake khona ama-agricultural product, ama-agricultural project afanele asilifte siye phezulu. Uma ubheka futhi statistics in the past years, uyabona ukuthi Eastern Cape has picked up in terms of employment in those areas neLimpopo. So it's our focus program la adila ngale partly. Enye into esifanele sibheke ukuthi si concern ngoba sasi reduce from 2009 ma ubheka le statistics si reduce between 10% to 20%. Sasi reduce le poverty. Si concern kakhulu manje kakhulukazi thina uma sifunda babunqanga si concern kakhulu ngaleya part layer between 0 to 17 years ukuthi isesephezulu kakhulu. Uma ubheka between 34 okusho ukuthi ama policies wethu hamba kahle between 34 ihamba ihlala iphasi kakhulu. Nama grants esiwanikezayo kwabantu abadala uyabona ukuthi ipoverty iya affecteka lapha kulo 65. Si worried ngalabantwana ke manje. That's why sifanele sifocus kubo si address i-minimum wage cabanga ukuthi izasinceda. Ngoba uyabona ukuthi le minimum wage le yenza ukuthi nabanye abangakhona ukusupport abantwana bakhona ukuba supporta ke. Yiyo ke le esiyenzayo ke. Siyabonga.
Sibonge, Minister Dlamini. Order, honorable members.
Okokuqala sisayicubungula inhlolovo eyenziwe i-research Stats SA. Then emva kwaloko sizobe sesibheka ukuthi imaphi ama-interventions afunekayo. Kodwa kumele sazi ukuthi already ama-grant ethu awu-150 billion ewonke. And imali eningi lapho isupporta abantwana. Iphinde futhi iye ku-ECD. Ngeke uthande njalo mangikuphendula ngoba ngizokuphendula.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, honorable members, okay. Honorable members, can we allow the minister to respond?
Abantwana izinto ezibalekile ngabo. I first 1000 days.
And then secondly, early childhood development. And then entweni yama drugs, ngoba siyabona ukuthi I-affect country, it's one of the things that should unite us. Angaze ngibe no Ben 10. Angaze nje ngibe naye shem.
Point of order, Chairperson. Chairperson, on a point of order.
Can you wait? Yes, Honorable
Honorable
Member.
Hlengiwe there has just
Hayi wena
insulted.
uzosho ukuthi weze kanjani la.
Can we
Usukhuluma too much.
allow the member to raise an order?
You must tell us how you
that
came here.
member of EFF has violated Rule 84.
Start there.
She has just insulted the minister, but she's having a pen 10. Please, can you rule so that she can withdraw that? Honorable Hlengiwe.
Honorable members, I hear what you are saying. Unfortunately, my vocabulary is limited to what is Ben 10. I will look into that and come back. Continue, ma.
Order, Chair.
Laba bayazi fane ngabe baqala nursery school la.
Order, Chair.
Bayayidinga.
Can you please allow us to continue smoothly in this? Honorable member.
But this is unfair. Ngihlalele phansi angaze ngisukume angimazi lo German party uthiwa ngifunani. Leli marshal la ANC.
Honorable member, that
Alwa
is
lapho
also
vele ka ANC
not
by
correct.
marshal khona uzorespect abanye abantu.
Honorable Minister, can you please conclude? You have 25 seconds left.
Okwesithathu, izinto ze-violence against women and children. Ezawo wonke ama-South African.
Order.
And amapati ala onke kumele alwisane ne-violence against women and children. La bekhona bangabheki ngaphesheya because charity begins at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairperson, again, I'm rising on a point on Rule 66.
Yes.
The members on the other side were disrupting the member because they can only disrupt, they can only rise on a point of order, not drown the speakers on the floor. Please.
Honorable members, we all know that the member cannot be interrupted as he speaks. And we know that, what do we call this thing, that heckling is allowed, but let's not drown the members that speaks. Thank you very much. Let's respect one another, and we will be able to finish our business on time. Thank you very much. That concludes ministerial responses. And the last item on the order paper is notices of motion. The ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. I move on behalf of ANC that the next sitting, the House debates dealing with the challenges embedded in the public transport system, especially in the taxi industry, to improve on safety, reliability, and affordable public transport. I thank you.
Thank you. DA?
Chair, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates government's inability to secure our borders, which has resulted in a high number of undocumented immigrants and impacts on job creation and economic development. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. EFF?
We note with grave concern the rate at which the ruling party has decided to finish what apartheid government started by selling all state-owned entities. We are now told that the Minister of Finance has decided to sell government stake at Telkom to bail out a corrupt SAA board. I rise on behalf of the EFF that in its next sitting, the House debate the misguided and short-sighted decision to sell government stake in SOEs instead of building state capacity. I so move.
Thank you. ANC?
Thank you, Mola. Thank you, House Chairperson. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates resolving the challenges
that are impeding the National Health Insurance Scheme from pilot phase to implementation phase. I thank you.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, House Chairperson. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I shall move at the next sitting of the House that this House debate the reasons for the escalating death toll at the Glebelands Hostel in Umlazi, south of Durban, the intended plans of action by the South African Police to restore the rule of law, peace and stability, and to consider recommending the deployment of defense personnel in the area. I so move.
Thank you. NFP.
House Chairperson, thank you. At the next sitting of this Honorable House, I shall rise and move on behalf of the NFP that this House debates endemic human trafficking and its disastrous effects on economic growth in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. ANC from the left.
Thank you, Chair. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates the impact of the stalemate in the mining sector on investment, growth, retrenchment, and unemployment on the future of the industry. Thank you, Chair.
UDM.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the United Democratic Movement that at its next sitting, the House debates the need to increase the current 30% pass model for basic education in order to improve the quality of our education system. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. FF plus. GA.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates plans to implement a compulsory, comprehensive maintenance program due to the appalling conditions of equipment which poses a serious risk of injuries or death at the small harbors. I thank you.
Thank you. EFF.
The month of August is a month that we are supposed to raise awareness on gender-based violence, the struggles of women and girl child, and reflect on progress on interventions necessary to combat gender-based violence. But many of these initiatives, especially government functions, have been turned into ANC rallies. I rise on behalf of EFF that in its next sitting, the House debate the use of state-funded functions as ANC rallies, which is tantamount to blaring of lines. This very untoward practice undermines national cohesion and focus. I so move.
Thank you. ANC.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates transformation of ownership of broad-based empowerment in the tourist sector to ensure that Black South Africans secure increased opportunities. I so move.
Thank you. Cope.
I move on behalf of the Congress of the People that the House in its next sitting debates the failure by the President and those in positions of authority to act despite inter alia the revelations emanating from the Gupta emails, which provide further undeniable proof of the extent to which the Guptas have used their association with President Zuma and his son, Duduzane, to corrupt the state for their own private financial benefit and the president's socius criminis. What people of South Africa are going through is terrible. It's being noted. Thank you.
ACDP, thank you. ACDP. ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates promoting and strengthening technical schools as centers of excellence, focusing on specific discipline and skill sets. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. AIC. Nee, meneer
Thank you.
Chief Whip of the Opposition, as I believe. Nia man.
Thank you, House
Honorable
Chair.
Member.
Let's noise, please.
Continue.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Makaula.
On behalf of
Ake
African
sinikele
Independent
nabantu
Congress, I hereby
isikhathi.
move that this House, in its next sitting, debates the strategies on how to prevent the escape of criminals from jail. I so move.
Thank you. Ahang. ANC.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo. Ke tlo go. I move on behalf of the ANC that in this next sitting, the House debates deliberating on the skills shortage identified
But
in
it's-
the National
but
Development
Chair.
Plan, diagnostic report, and what additional
Chair.
measures should be
What the-
implemented
Honorable
to
Member.
overcome this challenge.
Please wait. What are you raising
Chair.
on, Honorable Member?
Ushilo nje la kuhansathu ukuthi dihlow, why don't you just call
What
it out
is
of order?
that? What is
I will
dihlow?
murder you. I will murder you.
No. Set. Gaan mevrouw. Gaan.
Okay. Modulasetulo, ke a leboga.
Yeah.
On a point of order, Chairperson.
What are you raising on, Honorable Member?
Honorable Chairperson, if you want another Grace Mogale
What
thing
are
in
you
this house,
raising
must
on,
attend to that
Honorable
next
Member? I'm going to
Because
switch
we
off the
can
mic
meet
now.
outside.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo.
Tswela pele mmago batho.
Ke a leboga tshireletso o mphileng yona, bona. I move on behalf of the ANC that in this next sitting, the House debates deliberating on the
Honourable
skills
Chair,
shortage as
on a point of
identified
order.
in the National Development
On a point
Plan,
of order.
diagnostic report, and
Honorable
what
Member.
additional measures.
Honorable Motap. Ke kgopela le dule fatshe.
Honorable Chair, can we please be protected by you? You are doing it yet again. You are fresh from your leave. You are doing
What
it
is
again.
it?
That woman is making remarks and you are hearing
What-
it.
what
And then-
remarks are you talking
no,
about?
you have heard it. Like you are having table
What
staff there
remarks?
to assist you. You are having
Honorable
table
Member,
staff there to
please
assist
have
you. You are
respect
keep on
when you
doing it.
talk.
You are keep
I'm
on
going to
doing
switch
it.
off the mic because that's not a point of order. If you don't say what she is saying, continue. You still have your 7 seconds.
On a point of order, Chair.
I'm not going to
You are
allow
on
it
a
if you
point of
if you accuse me of things
We are
that I
being
don't
threatened
hear.
and you are not protecting us.
I don't hear anything.
She is talking on the microphone.
Honorable
She's
Member,
very audible.
okay.
She's very audible and she's.
Honorable members, listen. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. I want to talk. Please take your seat. Honorable members, if you are being threatened, am I going to address you or am I going to leave you? Honorable members, you are wasting our time. Honorable members, you are wasting our time. Continue, you have 7 seconds left.
Overcome this challenge. Ke a leboga modulasetulo, tshireletso ya gago.
Chairperson.
APC.
Chairperson.
Chair.
Where are we?
Mr. Singh.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was the first one.
I heard the voice
Chair.
of a lady first. Can I
With-
allow why on what?
With due respect, Chair, I humbly request that you please afford the honorable member an opportunity to reread her motion because she was
okay.
She was disturbed and interrupted throughout. We could not really capture what she was saying.
Thank you very much. I think the Hansard has captured that. We continue. APC. Oh, Honorable Singh.
Yeah, Chair, I just want to rise on a point of order. I think we all realize that this is Women's Month, but it's getting a bit much now. Thank you.
PAC. DA.
Thank you. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates the increase of taxi rapes and how our women can and should be protected from this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. ANC.
Dabulela Slalo. I move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates the critical shortages of doctors in the country and how higher education institutions should be supported to expand their enrollment so as to mitigate this challenge. I thank you.
Thank you. Re fihlile mafelelong a di notices of motion. Honorable members, ntlo itla ema, re a leboga. Thank you.